Oxfords and stuff. There's a
All right, we're technically streaming now, just
and
FYI.
so yeah, and so like that sort of a heel makes sense. And so I guess it depends on what you would consider a high heel. Like,
well, I'm
2,
talking
3,
like
4, 5 inches.
stilettos.
Yeah, see,
where
and I
their
can't
foot is
imagine
like this.
and
like,
I can't imagine that being a professional shoe. Like,
No,
there's
and
no
I've
way you're
heard-
walking around a chop shop
no.
with that kind of a shoe. But I could see where you would like imagine like your classic dress shoe, your Oxford, right? It's got a bit of a chunk on it and stuff. And then so maybe just raise that a little bit more, just expand that whole thing to like 3 inches all the way across.
Yeah, sure.
That would make sense.
Even men's boots, they still make boots today, work boots that have an elevated heel. So
my chonky Danner boots have got a bit of a heel on them. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to have boots that had a heel on them. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Tech Talk.
Right.
We're like, what the hell are they talking about? You don't worry yourself. You don't worry yourself, internet.
Talking about high heel shoes.
Welcome to Saturday's Tech Talk. The current date at the tone will be 7/16/2022 at approximately 11:05 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Boop. Perfect. Yes, I wasn't sure if you were gonna do it. That's awesome.
At the tone, the time will be exactly 6:75 and 4 seconds. Man,
dude, did you see that they still have an atomic clock that like broadcasts over like a shortwave radio station, so like you can synchronize wall clocks and stuff through like a radio frequency thing?
I think it's in Utah, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And it's really cool because it's like you can listen to it like with your regular ears, and it just sounds like boop, 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 boop. But then overlaid over the top of it, at the moment the time will be 11:06. Beep. But then in the background there's like a modem signal going on.
Constant a perfect beep every.
Yeah, that's got like it's
perfect
a data
half-life.
It sounds like a beep to the human ear, but it's like a data packet that says like the exact time and everything it's going to be at that, and then your clock, if you put in like your zip code or location or longitude or latitude, it can adjust for the time in flight for the radio frequency. Sure. So that you can even get a closer sync. But apparently clock synchronization gets down to like the hundredth of a nanosecond or thousandth of a nanosecond or something like that. These cesium clocks that they use, like the atomic clocks that we have, apparently they're accurate down to just an ungodly, like they'll lose a second over 100,000 years or something like that. And so to synchronize with those clocks, you have to use this like crazy protocol. It's not NTP. It's called like a PTP or something, performance time protocol.
Oh, it's not.
And it's like it's so precise that, and they're learning how to do it over the internet. Right now, they can only do it over a wide area network where they do the synchronization, where you basically have to have like your own little cesium clock that you sync to the master clock, and then you go off of that to synchronize everything else. But they're hoping that at some point everybody will be able to sync to this clock over the internet, and it's going to be able to figure out the exact latency over the internet, so it can synchronize the clocks together by saying, oh, I received a tick at this moment, move it this far over so that it aligns perfectly with the master clock. And it'll over time, it'll learn the jitter of the network and average almost perfect time. And so when that happens, they said that like when the entire world has that capability and that level of time synchronization, is going to like help out like the financial industry and stuff for stock trading and things like that.
Yeah.
I was like, it's kind of interesting, like how much stuff can use precision time like that, like where it does matter when you have hundreds of thousands. Like the GPS, I didn't realize the GPS was so dependent on a flawless time. Yep. Because those GPS satellites are moving at like 17,000 miles an hour or something like that, or faster.
Not just that, but they're ridiculously far out,
right?
Because it's a geosynchronous orbit, so they're further out than most other like communication satellites and stuff. And so, it's the signal delay, but also time dilation. They're so far out that the Earth's gravity affects time differently down here than up there. And they have to be in sync, or you'll be thousands of miles off. Like it'll be ridiculously inaccurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the time flows differently.
Yeah. Like, no, I heard about that. Like they synced a clock in orbit with a clock on the ground, and they actually get out of sync.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like at the hundredths of a nanosecond order, but they do drift.
It's such a trip to wrap your head around the fact that like gravity affects time.
100%.
And to think of it as a almost a physical dimension, time as a physical dimension that can be altered by enough stress on space time.
Like right?
Yeah.
Like that's the weird thing. Is like when you think of space and time, you think of like time is not a particle, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's not a physical thing, yet it can be bent.
Sure it is.
So it totally
chronotons, they call them, right? Particles of time is chronotons.
Yeah, or what's the other particle? The only particle we found that we believe is faster than light. It's a shoot.
I would say neutrinos. Yeah, neutrinos.
That's what it was. Neutrinos.
Yeah,
and that's why they always use them. Like I always wondered, like in Star Trek, they always talk about like neutrinos and we detected neutrinos. So there must have been some time travel going on. You know,
tachyons. Tachyons too. Tachyons travel backwards through time.
Yeah. I got it mixed up. I think I was talking about tachyons then.
Yeah.
Because I was talking about the particles that physicists think actually go backwards through time.
Tachyons.
So, to us, they appear that they're faster than light, but they're really not. They're traveling backwards through time. So to us, they appear to be faster than light, but they're really still obeying the laws of the universe or something. I don't know. It's stuff just blows my mind. It's like if you pretend to understand that shit, like you just cracked the surface, right?
It's not speed.
Out the stream.
Dan Fry says it's not speed that affects time dilation. It sort of does, because as you approach the speed of light, it's what a matter of perception, really. Because like
your reference frame is what
the whole general relativity thing is. It explains this. So the faster you go, the closer you get to the speed of light, the less time affects you. The faster you can move through space, the slower you move through time.
Here's the weird thing, though, is like I don't think it's so much you moving through time so much as the fastest moving particle that lets you know what time it is at that location takes longer to get to you. So like, for instance, if you're traveling away from the Earth at light speed, your light particles that you're emitting back towards Earth are essentially stalled. They can't go because you're canceling them out, because you're traveling light speed one direction. So if you shine a flashlight backwards, those particles can't exceed the speed of light relative to the position that they're generated from. So how do you, so you end up basically just bunching up. So until somebody comes past that point, they're not going to be able to see what you look at. You're going to appear frozen.
The thought experiment of like, if you're traveling at the speed of light and you turn on a flashlight, what happens, right?
Yeah.
Because like,
if you think about it, if you go to that point, the light waves are going to be stalled. So you're going to come through that, and it's going to be almost like going through a picture show.
Right.
Of what the time was like for those people as you're going through it. It'd be weird.
If you're traveling at 100 miles an hour in a truck bed and you throw a ball forward, you're still going to launch that ball ahead of the truck for a moment, because eventually the truck's going to catch up to it and stuff, whatever. Right. But like for a brief moment, the ball's going 100 plus whatever it is you gave it to throw. So why, if I'm traveling the speed of light, could I throw a ball faster than the speed of light?
Theoretically, no, but they don't think matter could approach the speed of light because it's basically got too much mass.
Yeah,
you'd always be less than the speed of light, and even if you're a couple of miles an hour less than the speed of light, the photons will still make it past. They're just going to be moving incredibly slow. So, because it's more like throwing the ball out of the back of the truck. It's like if you're going 60 miles an hour and you throw a ball as hard as you can out of the back of the truck, it looks to you like that ball is hauling ass away from you. I mean, but forward. To the observer on the side of the road, it looks like the ball just dropped on the ground.
I mean forward though. Say you're in the back of the truck, you're moving at 100 miles an hour, and you throw it forward. For a brief moment, the ball is going 100 miles an hour plus whatever it is you threw it, whatever you gave it.
That's an interesting thought experiment, though, because if the speed of light, if the physical speed of light is fixed, you can't go any faster than that. Then if you're going that fast relative to another object and you emit photons and they're traveling relative to you at the speed of light, that kind of fucks things up, right? Because then you're technically going faster than the speed of light. But then there's another thing that kind of brings into question: what if you have two objects moving away from each other, right? Yeah. They're both moving away from each other and they're both shining a light out. Then their light, if it was accelerating relative to them, would be going light speed in that direction, but relative to the opening distance between the two things, it'd be go faster than the speed of light. It'd be like the speed of light squared.
It would look like it.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. Is the speed of light constrained to the universe, or is it constrained to the point of origin?
It's relative. It's relative to the point of observation.
So if you could make something,
right, that's the whole point of relativity.
So you take a flashlight, you throw it at light speed, and then the flashlight turns on. Those photons are traveling at double the speed of light relative to whoever threw the flashlight.
Yeah. See, the mascot's got the right idea. The speed of the photons would be relative to the observer, not the emitter, not the person. Just so there's a thought, not experiment necessarily, but there's like a classic example of relativity is you have a guy on a train platform and a guy on the platform or on the train. The guy on the train drops a ball as the train is passing the platform. A guy drops a ball out the window. To the guy on the train, the ball goes down and like at a swoop, right?
Yeah, relative to him, it's falling,
him,
but it's actually going at like an angle to the other guy.
To the guy on the train, it falls and goes backwards.
Yeah.
To the guy on the platform, it just drops straight down.
Right.
And so it depends on who's correct. Well, it depends on who is observing it.
Yeah, but it's like, what if you're already going the speed of light? Because the thing is, like, realistically, from the reference frame of the universe, our galaxies are moving away from each other at like near the speed of light in some cases.
Yeah.
So, like, how is our light not just like traveling faster in that direction, right? It's got to be relative to the observer.
It looks like it's traveling faster. That's the thing. It's all relative to the point of observation. That's the relativity part. It's relative to your point of observation. So, like, again, the flashlight. If I'm traveling at the speed of light and I turn the flashlight on, from my perspective, the light's probably not going to come out. But if if somebody's looking at me and I'm coming straight at them, and I turn the flashlight on, it would go bang. They would probably, I'm guessing, I don't know the physics of this, but they would probably see the bing. The light would come on. Bang.
Because the other thing that would break the rule of the speed of light is when you have a black hole. Black holes can actually attract photons, right? They can bend light. So gravity can bend light. So if that gravity is bending the light into it, is it not changing the speed? Is it not attracting the light faster than it's traveling? Is it just changing its direction? Because if so, I mean, I'd think it'd speed it up, right? When shit gets pulled into a magnet, it accelerates, right?
Sure.
So you'd think if a photon is already going as fast as it can under its own energy state, and then a gravity well opens up, I guess it'd be going faster from the observer outside, but relative to the black hole, it'd look like it was still observing the speed of light.
Mm-hmm.
So just basically wherever you're standing, wherever your eyes can absorb the photons, you will never observe something moving at the faster than the speed of light, but you technically could go faster than the speed of light in the universe. Maybe. You just would never be able to observe it. Maybe.
I think at that point, because some folk in chat are kind of bringing this up, I think at that point you start to break causality.
Like, that's what I thought.
That's another weird trippy thing. Time only flows in a direction because that's how we perceive time.
That's interesting.
Like, there are certain models that describe, like, again, right? So if we take it as a physical dimension, just like I'm sitting right here, right? Yep. I am still moving through space, from the right perspective. I'm still moving through, but I'm still sitting right here. As far from my perspective, I'm not really going anywhere. So wait, where was I going with this? The cause and effect thing. All of time is happening at the same time. All of it.
Okay.
Just as I'm still sitting here, right here, and all of this is happening. Like I'm in this one space, right?
So you're saying all of time exists right
at
now,
the same time.
But we're observing it like light.
We're
like
moving through it. We're moving through the plane of time in one direction, but all of time exists at the same time on that plane from that angle, I guess. I don't know the right vocabulary here, but
so if that were true, you would just have to figure out how to artificially change your reference frame, and then you could theoretically look through time.
You could move or you just have to step outside of. You'd have to change your main plane of existence, I think. Like, you'd have to, instead of, height, width, and all that stuff, you'd have to check to a different plane to see it differently, I would think. Something like that. I don't know.
Well, I know
you start getting into weird shit like that. It's weird, man.
It's
breaks
a rabbit hole.
Easy. I don't know.
No, it's like I love shit like this though, because
it's a trip.
It's like if you don't know all the physics behind it and everything, it's just fun to try to figure stuff out and come up with theories, and then go see how close you were to the mark, or even read something that you completely don't understand that is nowhere even close to what you were talking about, right?
Sure. Oh yeah.
So okay, so if all time basically exists and we're just moving along, it's basically a plane of existence. The whole universe exists, but we can't observe it all, right?
It's purely from what I understand, and I'm sure this is theoretical stuff. I don't think these are fact and observe, because there's no way to prove it. You'd have to step outside the system, in order to see the
technology to test that theory.
And so can we respawn? That's a philosophical thing at that point. But what? No. Professor Brian Cox did a fantastic lecture which laid this out clearly using cones, like traffic cones, ice cream cones. time speed is different depending on the speed through space time. Yeah.
And the fact that light can still be bent from our perspective and appear to be moving faster than the speed of light because of like black holes and other abnormalities.
Right.
It's wild because like the reason why I was thinking about the photon thing, the thing that got me thinking about the photon thing was the James Webb Space Telescope.
Oh, right.
So that's where this whole thing came from. Is it kind of blew my mind the other day and I already kind of knew this from Hubble, but this kind of brought it back and refreshed it a little bit looking at these new pictures. And that is at a certain point, the universe just falls off in its blackness. So we can't see any further beyond that, but we don't know what's beyond that because technically it'd be moving so fast away from us that the light would never reach us. So that's why I was saying, like, if you're moving too fast this way and you shine light backwards, if you're going the speed of light and you shine light backwards,
it would like hang.
Yeah, it just hangs. It just hangs in space.
They did that. They did an experiment on Mythbusters for that. They launched a soccer ball out of a cannon at exactly 60 miles an hour when the truck was traveling 60 miles an hour, and it does. It just hangs there.
It just hangs and falls.
Neutral state. Yeah.
So that's what I was thinking about, and I was like, I forget the term for it, but in astrology, or not astrology, astronomy, big difference. You actually can't see beyond a certain point of the universe because once you get out, what is it, like a couple of 100 billion years or something like that, everything else in the universe is moving away from Big Bang. So that side of the universe or that quadrant is moving away from us at the speed of light. So we never get the light, like it never comes here. So we look back in time and we see like the beginning of the universe, but then everything on the other side of it, we're completely blind to because that light will never have an opportunity to reach us at the speed that it's traveling relative to where it's emitted. So the way it looks like is it looks like a cone, right? Like when the further you look out, the cone expands and the universe gets denser and denser and denser, or appears denser, and then there's just a dead space where you can't see any further. Like no matter how good your optics are on your telescope, there's no way you can see because those photons will never ever get here. It's impossible for them to get here because they're effectively hanging in space. So I was thinking about that because that was where I came up with the thought experiment of like, what if you're moving away from each other and you shine a light in both directions? How are the photons going to get back to the other person when they're moving at the speed of light and emitting the photons? They're just going to hang, right? So if they're just hanging, it's like they wouldn't see each other. They'd effectively be invisible to each other. And if your only way of detecting them is based on the laws of physics, which means any particle that you're observing has to be the speed of light or less, you would never know they were there. They would effectively be invisible. Like, so that what I'm getting at is the entire universe could literally be an endless, I mean, it could literally have an infinite number of galaxies is what I'm getting at. And we would never be able to see beyond that one point.
I think you might be able to see with the right setup or whatever. You could see
because the photons will never get here. The photons will never get here. You can only measure what comes to you. You can't, it's not like Star Trek where it's like, you monitor the particles out of distance. Like you have to have some emanation hit you to measure it, and because the laws of physics
that's what I mean. It would the light would still have some effect on things around it, so you might not be able to see the actual.
But here's the thing:
occurrence, but you could see its effects on things around it.
If it's affecting the object. Oh, you're saying it's affecting objects that's passing, like that are still with. Or
things passing it. Right.
That would make sense.
Assume if we're going to assume that say this bundle of light just is hanging there for a bit until it slows down or whatever, it's still going to bump into and affect things around it. So you can 100%. see those effects in the same way that like we may not be able to directly observe, like rogue planets, right? There's no light emitting from these things. There's nothing, but it does. The gravity of them, right, affects things around it. Will bend light from things that it's in front of.
Yeah, no, that's how we detect black holes because you literally can't see a black hole, right? I mean, it traps all light, right? So it's the darkest thing in space, right? That's why they call them a black hole. But you can still know a black hole's there by how everything else around it is acting. So I get what you're saying. So if light was moving through space, if it was going through star systems and stuff and bouncing off of planets and refracting and going south, eventually that particle could be reflected, or some of it could be reflected back at us, or the planet would change because of it. Yeah, and we could watch that change.
If it got in front of something that we could see, it would wiggle or warp something, or it would change. Crazy. I like this question here. Could gravity be faster than? I think it says faster than, it says the night, but I think he says faster than light. So gravity is not
it's not a particle.
It's not a thing in the way that like This is my understanding. It's very basic. I'm going to say this as an authoritative statement, but I'm want to inject the fact that I could be wrong. Yeah, Matthew Hilty give you the TLDR. Gravity is an effect. It isn't a wave or it's not like electromagnetism or the nuclear force, things like that. Gravity is an effect of the warping of space based off
anything
of
with mass,
the mass
space, right?
of a thing. Yeah.
So anything with mass, even even this Lego right here, is distorting space-time, but it's such a minute level you can't observe it like without sensitive equipment. But anything that has mass creates gravity, and I don't think we totally understand why yet. I think that's still kind of a bit of a mystery.
I think gravity is bent space-time. It follows causality like everything else. Yeah, sure. But it's not something that you could it's not like a wave. It's not it's not in the same sense as like electromagnetism and things like that. Which is a really confusing thing. Like, why is gravity so weak? I just defeated gravity. There's magnets that I can't pull apart, but I defeat gravity all day long. The Earth is enormous, and I beat that shit every day.
Yeah, well, the thing is that gravity is weak relative to mass, but where we have black holes and stuff, gravity is incredibly powerful. But if you had a magnet that was of that equal mass,
oh, dude,
you'd have more of a force.
Yeah, that's where they're like, you can. There's theories about using strong electromagnetic fields to warp space, so that you're basically constantly falling forward.
Yeah,
to move very, very quickly. And there's really cool experiments in electromagnetism where they have like anti-gravity fields. Basically, they're floating. That's such a strong magnetic field, and they're floating non-ferrous materials. Like, you can look this shit up. They're floating strawberries and spiders and stuff. This was years ago, decades. I want to say decades ago. They were doing this in the late 90s or something. It was super, super strong electromagnetic fields, and there's like floating, like a little spider floating in a hole like this big and stuff like that.
Yeah, and we can't really test it because it's like, to have a mass sufficient to create gravity that's like observable with our equipment, it has to be so damn big. It has to be like a planetary body or something like that, right? Because, like you said, I mean, the Earth isn't even that strong of a force. The force that's holding us to the ground, what we consider 1G of force, isn't a tremendous.
You beat that every day. You jump, and you beat the gravity.
It's like, but then again, if you evolved on a planet that had 10 times the gravity, you'd have 10 times the muscle to jump, right? So I guess that's not a good measure, because we're adapted to the planet, like, so we can actually jump here and we can do things. We're not just pinned to the ground. But if you brought somebody who lived their entire life in space and they were born in space down here, they'd probably like fall on the ground and stop breathing. So it'd be like somebody sitting on their chest.
Jetto Black mentions detecting gravity waves. I don't think those aren't. I'll have to look into it, because I know I kind of vaguely recall what you're talking about. I don't think they're not waves in the same way that like light waves, right? I feel like it's more the gravity waves are like the ripples you would see in a pond. It isn't. It's not like a beam of gravity is coming at you,
right?
It's the wiggling of the effect on the fabric of space-time.
The thing is, if gravity was a particle, if we thought that it was a particle, it would more than likely be a wave, just like light, because that'd be the only way.
Super fundamental thing,
because
like
of
that.
All the particles. Because the problem with light, the whole, as I understand it, the whole problem with light that they were trying to solve, and quantum mechanics actually proved them that it's a wave, is if you just emanate particles from a source, they become more and more scarce as they move outward, right?
Yeah, sure.
Whereas light, with a wave, and you have a wave going out, the wave still stays intact as it grows. So the wave never breaks, right? The wave is constant from one side to the other. So if you emanate a wave starting here at a single point, it will grow and grow and grow as it goes out. And then even if the observer's a billion light years away, it'll eventually hit them if nothing obstructs it, and they can view that light wave. If it was a particle, that wouldn't be the case, because there'd be huge gaps. Even if you sent out 100 trillion particles, light particles or photons, if they were particles, they would eventually scatter to the point where nothing would be able to see them past a certain distance, because they'd be too far apart. You wouldn't be able to collect enough of them, no matter how powerful your telescope was. So it kind of has to be a wave. So I wonder if gravity works on the same principle. But some people in chat, Jack Anderson, said that they think that it might be like graviton particles or something, but they haven't figured it out.
Yeah, there was some mention of that. Yeah, it's weird. It's super strange.
It's pretty crazy though, like how often we're right nowadays. like the Large Hadron Collider, right? They built that whole thing based on a theory that the standard model didn't work, and one particle could explain it. They basically worked backwards and said there's only one thing in the standard model that doesn't work, and that is light doesn't have mass. So there has to be some mass there. Where the hell is the mass coming from, right? So then they build this huge, what did that thing cost? Like $8 billion or $1 trillion or something. It's the most expensive thing I think man's ever created, right? And so they create this thing, and like no shit, they find it, right? like exactly what they were looking for. They also found a bunch of other new subatomic particles we didn't know existed, but they found the Higgs boson, which I thought,
well, that's
crazy.
Like 2012 or something. They did that a long time ago.
Yeah, it's like, Albert Einstein in the theory of relativity, and then you've got what's his name, Oppenheimer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Destroyer of worlds, and he takes that science, puts it to the test, and they're like, okay, well, if that theory is correct, then if we can find something that has a really, really dense object that we can then cause the atoms to basically break apart and expand, the matter to energy transfer would be like exponential, right? And so now you got a nuclear bomb, right? Or at least the first generation of it. Then it becomes like the hydrogen bomb and all that stuff. It kept evolving beyond that. But the fundamentals was like, Einstein's just like, theory of relativity equals MC squared. What is it? Energy equals mass squared.
Yeah.
Or Matt was mass times speed squared or something like that.
That equation is for the potential energy within an object is defined by its mass times the speed. So, which is like, that's bonkers, right? Because like anything is fissionable. It's just how efficient is that explosion going to be? That's
right,
and that's why we use things like uranium and plutonium and stuff, is because they're super ridiculously dense, and the chain reaction can get out of hand very easily.
Yeah, they're massively unstable isotopes. That's what you need for like a chain reaction, right? Is you need an isotope that when it breaks apart, the likelihood of it hitting another atom of the same type is really, really good, and breaking it apart and then continuing that reaction.
And then the reaction gets
and that's the only reason it stops. Like the only reason it doesn't just like engulf the whole planet, and by splitting every single freaking atom in existence, is because as it spreads out over a distance, you're no longer having the neutrons hit and break the bonds on the other atoms.
They did think that it could ignite the atmosphere.
I remember that.
And it's like they were freaking out. Like, man,
they thought the Large Hadron Collider was going to create a black hole that would consume the Earth.
No, man, there's got to be some kind of funny business going on with that. I don't know. It seems a little weird that a lot of shit has been going weird since 2012.
Wait, since they fired that thing up?
I mean, I'm no weird conspiracy theorist kind of guy, but there's some strange stuff been going on, and that's probably just confirmation bias. I'm just goofing, but like 2012 was supposed to be the end of the world and all that stuff, and blah blah blah.
Maybe we stopped it by flipping the switch.
Or did we bump off into another universe? Are we all dead? Is this some big lost thing where like we all been dead since, and like nobody knows or something? It's like fucking weird, man.
Yeah, because I think one of the theories, and the funny thing is, it wasn't just like one scientist. There was like some scientific consensus on a small level. There always is, though, right? On a small level, that turning on the Large Hadron Collider and taking and just creating exotic particles all willy nilly. Because again, you don't know what you're creating, right?
Man, you know what kind of weird stuff. When you're trying to recreate the Big Bang inside of like a tiny little box.
Yeah,
it sounds
sketch.
It's super weird, man.
It sounds sketch as hell.
I think the whole thing was very akin to the atomic bomb. Like, man. We were checking our math over and over and over and over again, and it looks like things are fine, but this is one of those things that, man, we don't really know what's going to happen when we flip the switch on this.
Yeah, the potential energy wasn't quite there, though. Like the chain reaction would have to occur with like other things and other particles. It would have to intertwine with other particles, because by itself it didn't generate enough energy to do anything but basically destroy itself.
Okay, bye. Have a good day.
You too, bye.
It's pretty crazy. Oh, you take it off?
Yeah, she's on here.
Yeah, no, I think the LHC proving the Bogues-Higgs is like one of the coolest things ever, because now it kind of gives me hope that we're finally on the cusp of figuring out fusion with like the ITER reactor.
All kinds of stuff.
Computations are so like dead on these days.
Yeah.
We still get stuff wrong. I mean, but nowhere near like it used to be. Like back in the day, where it's like you had no way to test shit, right? Like, is the Earth flat? Oh, well, there's only one way to find out. You know,
Right.
It's like now we have all this mathematics where we can simulate water, how water moves, how air moves. We can simulate gravity. We can simulate all these things. So now we keep building up these simulations that they become so realistic that you can like punch in, you know, an asteroid and its mass and where it hits on Earth and like roughly see exactly what damage it's going to do.
We're,
you know, it's like we are a simulation. That's what's funny. We actually figure we create a simulation within the simulation, and it just proves by observing it that we are in a simulation. Right. That would be the creepiest thing ever.
There's a movie. It's called I think it's called The 13th Floor.
I've heard of it.
That follows a similar sort of thing. Some people, so like the movie, spoilers, but this is like from like 1997 or something.
Yeah, I think we're clear of spoilers.
It's the old movie. It opens and it's like it starts off as like a murder mystery. It's like this guy, like, man, people are like blacking out and murdering folk that like I'm pretty sure this is the right one. I could be mixing it up. I'm pretty sure this is the right one. And then like the detective guy ends up killing somebody or something weird happens, but he blacks out and it's like, oh man. And during the hunt, he finds out that like I think it's like a side plot. These scientists are like observing some sort of simulation thing. They're like, they've created a whole world that like exists, and like, oh, everybody inside this world thinks that they are real and stuff. It's like a super ultra simulation, and they're watching this simulation. And as this detective guy's trying to figure out what the hell's going on, he finds out that they are in a simulation. So it's like that. It's like 3 layers. There's like the real world created a simulation, and that simulation created another one inside of it. And it's all like everybody, like these two both think that they're real. But what's been going on is like the real world people have been taking over people in the simulation and like fucking around. And that's why people are blacking out. But it's like, and then they're like, just try to drive to Santa Fe or something like that. Go to something like that, and the world ends. Like you can only go so far. Like Arizona doesn't really exist because they're inside a simulation. It only exists.
Yeah, the computer only has so much power, right? That exists.
And it's like trips out and breaks the thing. And I don't remember exactly how it ends, but it was pretty mind trippy stuff. That's a good one. Go check that out.
So if you created a simulation like this is something else I've given some thought to. If you created a simulation that handled every single variable, like literally you snapshotted our universe as it existed, and you had a sufficiently powerful computer that it could really in real time compute every single particle, every subatomic particle, everything, the simulation would play out exactly the same, like just like synchronizing clocks. The simulation from that point out would play out exactly the same as reality. And I'm talking take a snapshot. So even the person, your version of you inside of the simulation is also creates a simulation recursively forever. And so you would be observing it, but then you would immediately go, well, wait a second. The person in there thinks they're me. They're looking back at me because they know they're in a simulation because they created the simulation themselves. And the simulation is as realistic as their reality. So they know you exist and you're aware of their existence in both directions an infinite number of times. And so it all just cancel each other out. And you're like, well, none of us are real. Yeah. Like where's the real layer? But then the real layer could be another axis, right? Which is somebody who created the universe of simulations that create simulations. But then in their direction, it's a bunch of people that were universes that created simulations of other universes. So it's like, what if it was just this infinitely expanding onion and there actually is no concept of number? It's just true infinity in every direction, as far as you can see, as far as in every single dimension. It's just infinite. And our idea of a metric system or a numeric system is just based on relative distance between objects and stuff like that, just because that's how we have to quantify how we view things and the physics of the universe. But as far as the universe is concerned, it just gives fuck all because it's infinite in every direction. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. I'm gonna have to watch 13th Floor. That seems cool. Eric G, thank you for that $10 super chat, by the way, brother. We appreciate that support. He said, hey guys, hope you're doing well. Glad to catch a show while I recover. Glad to have some quality entertainment while I'm isolated. Unfortunately, Eric got the V. Oh, he got the CV. So but he's doing all right. So which is good. He's in self-isolation at home. He's vaccinated. He'll survive. Let's see here. Continue this train of thought, and you'll come to realize that there is no free will. It's all just physics. I know. I believe that. I literally believe that every single thing that I do, because it's based on what happened before it, it's all laid out. Like it's all laid out. It can only carry out in one order, because it already from the day I started to exist, or actually, like, did I even exist? Because all I did is, like, my dad's matter converted into other matter, and here I am. Right? It's like I always existed. All of us always existed from the beginning of time. From even our science supports that at the moment of Big Bang, when every piece of matter in the universe was created. Every piece of matter and all the energy in the universe was created in the blink of an eye during this one massive atomic explosion, right? So if that's the case, every single molecule that's in our body has existed forever. And if it didn't, it was energy converted into that matter, or matter to energy, and vice versa. But it always existed in some state in this universe. All it did is just happen to get, like, turned into grass that then grew a cow, that then got turned into a hamburger that your dad ate, that then turned into the proteins that went into his balls and then went into your mom and made you. And it's like, but if you think about it, it's like we're all made of the exact same shit that has always existed. And when we die, we just go back to that pool, right? It's like you even if they burn you, even if they cremate you, it doesn't matter. It's like they're just converting, some of your energy into a gaseous state. Some of your energy is matter. Your electrochemical energy in your brain, it's converted and still exists. So realistically, we're just all recycled. Like, the entire universe is just an infinite cycle of it's recycling. It is the whole universe. It's like every planet that's formed, every star system that's formed and collapsed and turned into a black hole, all that matter still exists. It's just in a different arrangement. So I thought that's another little mind experiment that, when I think about it, blows my mind, because it's like, this is the only time, as far as I know, this is the only time that I've ever been arranged in the molecules of this particular human. But I've existed for as long as the universe has existed. Wow, but I just existed in multiple places. Yeah, my parts have. My every molecule in me at one point existed as something in this universe. And when you think about it that way, it's like when you die, all you're doing is you're just changing states, right? It's like you're going from a complex thinking state back to a material state, and then that material gets realigned back into something else and mixes with some other shit and makes another thing. So it's like, I don't know, man. I think it could lead to some pretty cool stuff.
It reminds me of I don't know if this is a poem necessarily, or I guess so this is attributed to somebody called Aaron Freeman, and it says, let me start over. It says, you want a physicist to speak at your funeral. You want the physicist to talk to your grieving family about the conservation of energy, so they will understand that your energy has not died. You want the physicist to remind your sobbing mother about the first law of thermodynamics, that no energy is created in the universe and none is destroyed. You want your mother to know that all your energy, every vibration, every BTU of heat, every wave of every particle that was her beloved child remains with her in this world. You want the physicist to tell your weeping father that amid the energies of the cosmos, you gave as good as you got. And at one point, you'd hope the physicist would step down from the pulpit and walk to your broken-hearted spouse there in the pew and tell them that all the photons that ever bounced off your face, all the particles whose paths were interrupted by your smile, by the touch of your hair, hundreds and trillions of particles have raced off of you like children, their ways forever changed by you. As your widow rocks in the arms of a loving family, may the physicist let her know that all the photons that bounced from you were gathered in the particle detectors that are her eyes, that those photons created within her constellations of electromagnetically charged neurons whose energy will go on forever. And the physicist will remind the congregation of how much all of your energy is given off as heat. There may be a few fanning themselves with their programs, as he says it. And he will tell them that the warmth that flowed through you in life is still here, still part of all that we are, even as we who mourn continue in the heat of our own lives. And you'll want the physicist to explain to those who loved you that they need not have faith. Indeed, they should not have faith. Let them know that they can measure, that scientists have measured precisely the conservation of energy and found it accurate, verifiable, and consistent across space and time. You can hope your family will examine the evidence and satisfy themselves that the science is sound and that they'll be comforted to know your energy is still around. According to the law of conservation of energy, not a bit of you is gone. You're just less orderly. Amen. That
is awesome, dude. Can you tweet me a link to that later? Because I want to read that on my Twitch stream.
That's good. I like that a lot.
That guy nailed how I feel. Like that's the gist of my theory, just laid out much more articulately. Is that exactly the law's conservation of energy. Like I existed before this form, and I'll exist after this form.
You're just less orderly.
I'm just less orderly.
I like that.
And the thing is I'm only as self-aware as the complexity of the thing that's created from that matter. So if I end up turning into a volcanic rock, I'm going to live out the best life as a volcanic rock ever with no knowledge of what I was before or what I'll be after. Right? I'll just be the best damn volcanic rock ever.
So, Speaker Wiggin here talks about entropy. All of that stuff would still exist. So entropy, yeah, eventually the heat death of the universe and all that stuff, right? Despite the fact that the Earth is still expanding or the universe is expanding and accelerating in its expansion, but let's not go ahead.
That's why we're doing the dark matter experiment. That's pretty trippy shit.
But
have you looked into that at all?
The particles and stuff would still exist. The energy state just eventually reaches an equilibrium. Like it's still there.
Yeah, it's
not
like
gone.
So let's say because they think everything's moving apart and it's gaining speed too. It's not just moving apart. It's actually
that's the
speeding
trippy
up.
thing.
And they're like, how the hell is that possible? Like that seems to violate some fundamental laws because all these things that have gravity should attract each other, not repel each other. We don't know gravity to be a repelling force.
I would say we're still in the expansion phase of the Big Bang, the explosion.
But you wouldn't continue to accelerate. A bullet doesn't continue to accelerate once it leaves the barrel. It's like you only lose speed. You don't gain speed unless
after a certain point, you're accelerating up until that until the initial inertia fades out. Think about it. The bullet goes from a zero state to accelerating.
Mm-hmm.
And
because pressure builds in the barrel, a stronger force pushes it.
The explosion has the potential energy in it, or the inertia to it. Eventually, and that may occur at the end of the barrel. I'm not sure exactly. It's probably a little bit past the end of the barrel.
It's not actually. It's right. Well, it's as soon as the pressure wave starts pushing the bullet.
Yeah, so somewhere shortly after the end of the barrel is when it starts to bleed acceleration. It's slowing down. We maybe haven't left the barrel yet.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So like
we're still in the acceleration phase. We haven't reached the point where we're slowing down. We could still be expanding in the initial explosion part.
The only reason I don't think that's the case is because like if you think of like a primary explosive like TNT or something, yes, it's going to accelerate when it explodes. It's going to accelerate things because it's pushing the air towards it and the mass is gaining speed, right? Because there's more force pushing on it. But we don't observe any more force pushing on the universe. Yeah. Like that's why we're trying to figure out what dark matter is because we don't.
I wonder why would there be an assumption that there would be anything to press against to slow down the expansion of the universe?
Well, no, not slow it down. I'm not arguing that it would still just infinitely go on as long as nothing impedes its progress. It's the fact that it's speeding up that's weirding people out. Like the speeding, like if you set off an explosion and that you reach your max velocity or whatever, then you either maintain it if there's no resistance, like if it's in space, it'll just go forever until it hits something, or against the wind, it'll slow down, right? So it either goes the same speed or it slows down once it reaches its max speed. The universe is never going to reach its max speed. They're observing that like all these galaxies and everything are picking up speed. And like the Big Bang happened like billions of years ago. It's the vacuum of space, so there's no medium to which to exert force on an object. The objects themselves would just be carrying their initial momentum from the explosion. So like, why are they going faster? And that's the big dark matter, dark energy mindfuck, right?
There's nothing to stop you from continuing to gain speed.
No, but that's my point. You can't gain speed unless something's pushing on you. Like once the push is done, there's nothing else left.
You continue. In a vacuum, it does. If you go, right, whatever energy you gave when you went, you're gonna keep moving at that speed, right?
Correct.
Oh, I just
see what I'm saying now. Yep. Okay, you got it.
Yeah. So there has to be. Yeah, that makes sense. There has to be. We just and see that's Stuart Whitaker. I think is on my track. The expansion hasn't reached its maximum yet. So there's still some energy from the initial explosion still pushing out. We haven't reached
the dark matter experiment. The dark matter and dark energy is that there's still something we can't observe. Like what we observe is the nothingness and vacuum of space. Yeah, we theorize that it could be like water, like being in the ocean. All these planets could be floating in this medium, and if that's the case, then they would be able to the force of that material in that universe would potentially like give buoyancy, like space buoyancy to these galaxies and allow them to like float apart and to push apart. Whereas if it was nothingness and there was no friction, there's no drag or nothing as we understand it, how is that happening? And the thing that we notice is the galaxies are these huge gravity wells, right? I mean, they're massive gravity wells themselves.
Because all the stuff that's in
it's
them.
like the cumulative expansion. So it's like, why aren't galaxies attracting each other? Why are they repelling each other? That's another really weird one. It's like why aren't these galaxies like more often just like smashing into each other? Why aren't we observing? There's a billion galaxies in the sky. Why the hell aren't these things attracting each other and slamming into each other? Are they?
Well, yeah, there's some that have collided. You can see it. We have pictures of galaxies that have collided.
I mean, that would even make sense as random chance with how many galaxies there are out there. But I'm like, why isn't that always happening? Like, why aren't all these galaxies just attracting each other? Like, I understand in the solar system, once you get out past a certain point, gravity has minimal influence on you, like from our star. Like, you have to get somewhat close for it to get into that well of gravity to be pulled in. But when you're talking about a galaxy and how much like cumulative gravity that galaxy has, right? These big spiral galaxies, like, how the hell does that work? Also, galactic bullet collisions are fun to read into. Oh, is that what it is? And dark energy is what's accelerating us now based on our current understanding. Well, it's just theory, but we do have an experiment for dark energy. I've seen that, the one where they dug down into that salt mine shaft or whatever to basically go to a place in the earth where no cosmic particles can reach. And they're basically going to measure, like you said, the influence of particles on matter. Right. And they're gonna observe the change of like this material that's in this chamber that's encased in water, encased in like 8,000 feet of rock or whatever. And they said that this is so buried deep in the earth that the only particle that would be able to reach it would be a particle that couldn't interact with matter, that would just pass through the earth as if it wasn't there. And so they're hoping to confirm, what is it? It's either dark energy or dark matter. I think it's dark energy though. They're not trying to find dark matter.
Well, because there's something out, there's a bunch of stuff out there that we can see the effect of, but we can't see what's doing it. I think the matter part,
we see it as it is.
They're combined.
We see it as it was like billions of years ago, though.
Yeah,
that's another thing that really hinders us. It's like when the James Webb Telescope is a time machine, right? It's like the further you look away, right? The longer ago it was. And so that's where you get that funnel where it's like you eventually hit a point where it's just darkness because that was the beginning of the universe. Like you were literally watching like before Big Bang happened, so to speak.
Well,
before,
if you can see that far.
The universe didn't exist, until Big Bang happened. But you can't look past that point. There could be a shitload of stuff past that point. There could be an infinite amount of shit past that point. But we just cannot see it because it is moving too damn. Everything's still accelerating. It's getting to the point now where the relative speeds moving apart is faster than the speed of light. So we have no way for our telescope to ever observe it ever.
Oh, man.
Even if we lived to be a trillion years, we'd never see it.
I think that's the trippiest thing to like realize is how much of our like reality or how little of our reality we can actually like perceive. Our senses are only so capable, right? Our instruments are only so capable. Like, well, I don't know, there could be some weird thing right here that I can't that I don't know about because I can't perceive it.
You're right.
Like, think about they talk about, man, you got like mites in your eyelashes and shit. And I'm like, man, I don't know about that. I can't see that stuff.
Dude, like, don't look up face mites, man. That will fucking haunt you.
The fact that it's imperceptible, like, implies that it just doesn't exist.
Yeah,
that's
like a very human thing.
Existence it requires observation. Like it is all things all at once until it's observed, right? And so like,
well, I mean, that's why we have to theorize and build equipment, because it's like the human doesn't have the facilities to observe a Higgs boson. Like, no matter what, it's like you can't just go outside and like sit under a tree and look really, really hard and see a Higgs boson. It's like it's beyond the capabilities of your hardware. But what isn't beyond your capabilities of hardware is to build a machine that looks at things differently, to give it different senses than you have. Like James Webb
the pictures are all infrared and then false colored. Yeah,
I was just gonna say that the James Webb Space Telescope pictures that you see, those beautiful pictures with like the cosmic cliffs and shit like that, those are artificially colored. If you looked at that, if you were there at that same focal length, looking at that spot like in real time right now, you would not see that cloud of dust. Like, because it's only in the things
not visible light
inside of it. If it's not in the visible light spectrum, you wouldn't see it as a human. You're like, oh shit, that doesn't exist. It's a clear sky. But in reality, the James Webb Space Telescope is looking at a different spectrum, and it's like, ooh, look what I can see. And then you talk about radio waves. Radio waves are just slower moving waves, right? With larger wavelengths than light. So it's like as you keep getting a longer and longer and longer wavelength, then you start getting into like the X-ray spectrum. Beyond the X-ray spectrum, you just keep going and going and going until you have like shortwave radio or LFR or whatever. What is it? The low frequency radio that can like permeate through the earth and through the water. But it can't transmit shit for data because the wavelength is like miles long, right? Like, yeah, it's like the antenna for it is like, 3 miles in every direction. So ULF, that's what it was, ultra low frequency. So everything is these waves, right? Everything is like light, radio waves. It's all waves. That particular energy state, the things that vibrating the lights, but we don't observe it ourselves. Like you can't observe it yourself. Like you right now, you're being bombarded with like thousands of radio signals coming from satellites, coming from ground sources, coming from the universe. The universe bombards you. Like every star in the universe is like kicking your ass right now with fucking particles and there is
the electromagnetic shield of the planet.
That is true.
Keeping the worst of that shit out of here.
But no, you're totally right. We'd be dead without it.
Like, with your Wi-Fi router.
Right.
That's what drives me bonkers when people are like, oh, 5G or cell phones, blah, blah, blah. Cancer. Like, dude, from the 40s, basically, to today, you've been bombarded. You're constantly bathed in radio waves. Yeah. Low power. I mean, think about just your radio, your literal radio, the car radio. That's just blasted out there all willy-nilly. It's just everywhere. Every radio station frequency from AM 850. I don't even know how low AM goes. It goes real low, all the way up to the most highest FM frequency that you got in 107.7. You're bathed in that shit all the time. Constantly. I mean, I know I've talked about this on stream before. I was working at the Starbucks. And a guy comes in, talking about radiation. Oh, man, let's talk about radiation. Okay, man, what do you got? I'm a smart guy. He shows me this video of this guy. Fucking kills me, man. Guy takes an EMF thing, right?
Yeah, so everybody's buying those.
Little doodad that's got a thing. It tells you how strong the EM field is around stuff.
Yeah.
And he fucking takes the thing and puts it up near a CFL bulb. Okay, a compact fluorescent bulb, and the thing goes bonkers. The thing goes maxes out. I go, whoa. We go, first off, let's get something straight here. Radiation is not bad. Okay. Your heater gives off radiation. It's infrared, right? You got a cell phone in your pocket, that's giving off radiation too. It's radio waves, right? No big deal. The concern is ionizing radiation. Correct. From nuclear stuff and whatnot. That's different. So I have to explain to this fucking guy, so that's a compact fluorescent bulb. That's a fluorescent light, just like in the long tubes you got in your garage, right? Now, you know how those things work, right? There's a very high voltage. It's exciting some sort of gas that's inside the thing, the tube, I don't know what it is that's in there, but it excites some gas that's in there, and that's what glows. Okay, that takes a very high voltage. You understand how electricity works? It's high voltage, right?
Those are a little different, though, because the phosphor is what glows on the inside of the glass.
Sure. I don't know, whatever it is that's in there.
Yep.
It's whatever that's in there, neon or whatever.
Voltage. You're right. It takes a shitload of voltage.
High voltage. There's a ballast for it to interchange your 120 volts up to something ungodly, I'm sure. It's very high voltage. That's why I'm going to tell the guy, like, it's the same, those little bulbs that you put in your living room, same concept. You see, if you ever compare it to an incandescent bulb, you notice how it's got that big, thick base on it. That's the ballast. Yep. You can think of that as the ballast of the lights in your office.
For all intents and purposes, it's a super high voltage. It's a taser.
And I'm like,
basically like a taser to excite the gas, right?
So I had to explain to the guy, the thing that guy's using to show this radiation, it's electromagnetic radiation. You take that thing to the back of your television and it'd go nuts too.
Oh, put it next to your phone when you're getting a phone call.
Oh, man.
It'll go off the damn scale.
I explained to him too. I go, but man, remember back in the day, if you had your cell phone, like old school cell phone, near a set of speakers, and you'd hear the zzz, and then your phone would ring? That's your speakers picking up the beam, the radio beam that's about to hit your phone. That's the radio waves coming to your phone about and communicating before it's hollering out there. Hey, is that cell phone there? And then your phone goes, yep, I'm here, and rings. Like,
yep. Have you ever just turned on a radio and listened to the sound between the stations?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
you just hear that. It's just a whole shitload of noise on that channel being amplified.
That's the background radiation. That's the microwave background radiation of the universe fucking with your radio.
And the thing is, we're
sure
hit with ionizing radiation all the time. It's just not a lot of it, like relative to what we can survive.
Standing out in the sun on a bright sunny day is ionizing. You're you get cancer and shit from that because it's breaking your DNA up and stuff. It's like, come on, man.
Getting a CT scan is the highest radiation that you will ever come into contact with if you're not like working as a nuclear technician.
Yeah. Oh, this is a little off topic.
I only found that out after I got my CT scan, and I was like, shit, now I'm gonna get lung cancer.
Sort of similar. There's I just bumped into this interesting thought, and I want to dive into it a little bit.
Let's do it.
There's talk about that aerosolized lead from
terrible.
from when it was leaded gasoline.
Yeah.
Might be the cause of why boomers and folk born prior to the killing off of leaded gasoline are so selfish and aggressive and all this stuff, because it's like low level heavy metal poisoning.
Yep. I actually watched a YouTube documentary talking about
the lead paint and the gas and all this stuff, and I'm like,
and the worst thing is,
I wonder about
that. Dude, this is how bad we were as humans. Like, people think that we haven't progressed. Like, oh, we're going back to the dark ages. We are a little bit, but not like you think. Like, even just going back like 50, 60, 70 years, think about this. They actually put lead in gasoline, right? They already knew at that point what lead did to the human body. They already knew that it caused toxicity. They knew that it caused brain problems.
And there's no getting rid of that shit. Like, heavy metal poisoning builds up over time. You don't get rid of it. Like,
you can literally pass it on to your baby in some respects. So this heavy metal poisoning, they knew about it, but they still went forward with it because it made it lubricated engines, and it made engines run longer, and it made engines run more efficiently because it lubricated the seals on the valves by caking them with lead, right?
The paint thing, it makes the colors brighter and pop. Yeah.
So lead has a lot of uses, but the problem is over time, as it deteriorates and it gets rubbed against it transfers, you know? It's like even just if like lead stripping on a house, like back in the day before, I think, was it lead that they used or something before zinc? They used to, now they use zinc stripping on the roof, but they used to use like lead or something on the roof. I don't know what they used it for, but apparently the water would come down and hit it, and it would leach off the water, and then it'd pour off the roof onto your plants. And people were like growing vegetables and shit, and water's like pouring off the roof onto their plants, and they're basically just eating like heavy metal plants. and then it makes you aggressive. Lead poisoning of the brain makes you super aggressive.
Isn't that the trip? I was like, man. So it's not so much that
around poisoning each other.
Yeah, it's not so much that younger generations are just like evolving to be more progressive and stuff. It's just that we're not poisoned with lead, and so like this is our natural human state, is to be kind of nice to each other, and like wanting to care about each other.
It's gonna be a long time before we purge that out, because the mother can pass it on to a lot of it onto the baby, so people. It takes generations to go away.
And we still got people who were fucking 100%. Adults in World War II. Fucking.
Well, here's the thing that pisses me off is that leaded fuel is still in use today.
Yeah, right. In a little bit.
Civil aviation. Every single engine in civil aviation is required to run leaded fuel. It's actually like it's a law. Here in I don't know if it is abroad, but here in the United States, you are required to run leaded fuel in your personal aircraft. Like, unless it's a turbine that runs like JP8 diesel or whatever.
That's nuts.
You have to run leaded fuel. I didn't know that. Like, I talked to my friend who's a pilot, and he's like, no, he's like, all the Cessnas, everything, all that shit runs. What is it? Low lead. I think it's 91 octane. It might even be like 87 octane. It's like, it's not high test fuel. And sorry, it is. It's 100 octane. That's what it is. It's aviation fuel, 100 octane or thereabouts, and it's leaded. And I'm like, why are they still using lead? And it's because lead makes the motors more reliable because of the way it seals and lubricates the valves in the drivetrain. There's less chance of mechanical failure. But all these planes that are just flying around over your head and shit, they're just blanketing you. Now, granted, it gets dispersed into the atmosphere more before it gets down here. But yeah, chemtrails are real, man. As it turns out, they're coming from the little Cessnas, not the big planes. The big planes are actually running pretty clean. It's the little Cessnas you got to worry about dive bombing your house. You know, it's basically just a lead curtain coming down on you every time they pass by.
Crazy.
It just, that's what it is. 100 low lead. That's what they call it. The aviation fuel. But yeah, and you can still buy leaded additives, because if you have an old car that's like grandfathered in, it's like you have to run leaded fuel, because if you don't, it'll burn up the seals and stuff, because the car was designed to run with this leaded lubricant. So then you go buy a bottle of like condensed liquid lead. Weird. And you pour that into your gas tank with your regular unleaded fuel and swash it around and go for a drive. So we're still not rid of it after all these years. Lead is still a big part of fuel. And I think there's some countries that still just use leaded fuel, like just because it makes engines last longer. Huh. It's just crazy shit, man. Hey, Valiant Brand, thank you so much for the $33 super chat, dude. That is so beyond generous. I know, big baller, man. Yeah, you don't see tips like that very often. Damn, dude, thank you. We appreciate that so much. Like seriously, we're gonna give him the little hold on here. So, yeah, there it is. Woo! Woo! Here, give us some beeps too. Woo! Woo! we got to do something for it.
Yeah.
No, it's just like we did some really stupid shit to ourselves back in the day. I'd say right now we're not doing great on some things, and we're going backwards on some things, but I think all in all, like at least scientifically, we are doing better. Like technology is better. We are running cleaner. We are polluting less. I mean, per capita, we're still creating a shitload but given the population density now, I think we're doing a lot better than we used to be. I mean, China's still creating a giant cloud. Like, did you see the pictures, dude? It blew my mind. The pictures from the satellites during the COVID. When there was a cloud. Holy shit, bro. Valiant Brand just gave us another $55.55. Dude, I'm gonna give them all the buttons. You ready?
All the buttons.
Okay, all the buttons. Here we go. Yeah. Woo!
I only have one button right now.
That was, I gave them all 8 buttons.
I'm still trying to figure out if I actually purchased that Adafruit macro pad or not. I can't. I don't have any emails or anything, so I don't think I did actually.
You would have gotten an email from Adafruit if you ordered it directly from Adafruit. You would have got an email confirming your order.
Man, I'm still pretty sure I did though.
Check your spam folder.
That's the thing, right? Like I'm pretty sure I did. I'm just can't find any confirmation of it.
Oh, speaking of Pakistan, so it's like Pakistan by chance, the people running lead. No, I've been watching these videos of India, both India and Pakistan, where they have these dudes that are like building, like repairing engine blocks and making wheels and shit, like out of like a dirty garage. Have you seen those videos?
No.
It's like these dudes literally with like a 1920s like lathe that looks like it was like built by somebody in their garage, and these dudes in these like dirt floor like little dens off the side of the road are like completely rebuilding precision like diesel engines and stuff from trucks.
Crazy.
And I watch these videos and they're just like eyeballing shit. Like it's just crazy, but they put it all together and it works. And it's been blowing my mind. I've been completely addicted to these videos. And I'll send you some links to some that I've been watching, but it shows the whole process, like end to end. They're long videos. They're like 30 minutes to an hour.
Crazy.
And it shows like the whole process of them making a product, but like not using any of the technology we would use here in the West. Like none of it. Like these are dudes like, okay, they're going to make a washer machine. How do they do it? They're literally like pounding the metal over an edge, like with a hammer on a block of wood, and then like putting like, instead of rivets, just screwing screws into it with a hand screwdriver, and like building the base in and everything. The only thing they get is the motor, like, right? They don't build the motor. But then there's another video of them like rebuilding motors, like taking them apart and rewinding the stators and re-gluing everything, but they're doing it all by hand with with very few machines. It's like cool. It's pretty damn mind blowing what these guys can do. It's like you've seen the videos where those guys go out in the woods and they just build like an oasis in a couple of days. Right?
Oh yeah, man, I think that's super fake. I'm pretty sure I saw a little thing kind of deconstructing some of that, and like there's little there's little bits where like you can see a guy in the background digging away. It's not just the two of them.
Oh, you're saying because I was gonna say they usually time lapse it, so you get to see like everything getting done.
There's some question about whether or not it's one, just the two of them, and two, whether they are actually doing it with just like sticks and rocks and stuff, because it's like it's awfully like perfect.
I mean, it does look pretty perfect.
It looks like you may have had a backhoe or something coming in here to help dig this up, because like, dude, some of this would have taken weeks. Like, come on. Because
I watched one where they did an entire time lapse of them hogging this thing out, so they couldn't have faked it.
Yeah.
Like they hogged out like 10, 12 feet into the earth with two dudes with like their little shovels.
Yeah.
And I was like, so it starts to make me wonder, like, okay, if they could do that, like, wouldn't the rest of that shit be somewhat trivial?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so maybe some of them are faked and some of them are real, because the ones I watch, they don't do it in a single day. It's like a week or two of them working on it, you know, and then it's like the next day, but it always starts out looking the same as it did the previous day. Like, they're not working through the night and like putting in plumbing and shit. Yeah. But it's just I'm fascinated by people being able to do something like that, even if they are getting help and they're faking it and there's shit going on behind the scenes. It's just amazing the end result. True. That's possible out in the middle of nowhere, you know?
Not to like poop on the effort or anything.
Oh,
like,
definitely.
Yeah,
and there are a lot of fake videos. Like, I totally get that. There are a ton of fake videos on YouTube. Like just go look up free energy. I cannot believe how many free energy videos exist on YouTube. And some of this shit has like 14 million views, and it's the dumbest shit you've ever seen. Like, I mean, literally, it's like, oh, do you want to get unlimited energy? Here, let me show you how. Take your plastic bottle like this, and then wrap it 2 times with a lamp cable. And then what you want to do is like set it under the power lines, and it'll collect infinite power to run your fan. And then they like plug a fan into the bottle and turn it on, and it runs. The fan obviously has a battery in it, but people are like, oh my God, I can't believe that works. And then the whole comments are like, I tried this and it didn't work. Like, what am I doing wrong? Hey, could you post a tutorial? I followed along and I'm not getting the same result. And it's like,
of course not.
They just made so much money off this video. And it's like, even if only 1% believe that it's true, it's like, oh my God, you've done damage to society. Like you've hurt the minds of the youth, you know? And it's sad. It's so sad because some of it is fairly convincing, like the perpetual motion machines, which they're not really perpetual motion. There's always a third energy source coming in, whether it be the battery, solar, using gravity to some extent or something to counter gravity. Yeah. There's always something going on there. Like, you can't create a perpetual motion machine that just runs forever. Unless you're using sun or using outside energy.
That's not how thermodynamics works.
But it's like there's these guys that do like these, what do they call them? Overdrive wheels or something like that. Overdriven wheel. And it's basically just a wheel that has like these marbles that as it rolls around, the marbles like slide from one position to another, making one side of the wheel constantly heavier. So the wheel spins forever. But it doesn't spin forever. It just spins for a really long time. It doesn't spin forever, though. It stops after a minute or two. But these people are like, oh, yeah, it's been like this for 24 hours, even though there's like 10 jump cuts in there. And then it's like, oh, and you can connect this to a generator and make power. And it's like, dude, if you even breathe on it, it stops. Like, you're not going to get any torque out of that to turn a generator. Are you kidding me?
I like there's an old experiment that a guy put like these thin, I can't remember what material it was, but it was really, really thin. Like let's just say it was like a really thin sheet of lead or something. Yep. It made like these, like a little, kind of looked like a windmill, but instead of the fins being kind of like, this way where they rotate like around like a fan, they're upright so that they spin this way. Right?
Yep. I'm following you.
And he puts it kind of in a vacuum as best he can. And the thing spins. The thing's like you expose it to light and the thing just starts to spin.
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. There's light measurement devices that you can buy to do that.
And he's like, back in the day, there's like 1900s or something. He's like, oh my God, this is like
motion.
Yeah, he's like, this is it. I found it. Free energy, blah, blah, blah. Well, as science has expanded and stuff and gotten better about it, they figured out that it's like the heat differential. The one side of the little thin fin is getting warm, and so it's like pulling that way. Or pushing away from the hot side, trying to pull toward the cool side. And so like in the dark, nothing happens because it's like evenly temperature. Yeah. But as long as there's like light shining, the thing will kind of move a little bit, but it has nothing to do with like the wind or solar power in the sense that, solar cells or whatever. It has something to do with like the difference in temperature on one side or the other of the little fins or something. But it was a really cool, like mind blowing experiment at the time. It was really fun.
I think it's, what do they call it? Light pressure? Or something
like that.
Yeah, they make these little vacuum tubes that you can buy that have like a little rotate, like a little pin sitting on like a magnet, and it's got those little foil fins, and these just spin around. It's like a weather vane that just spins around when you hit it with light, and the more intense the light is, the faster it spins. And you can buy them. Oh, it's a radiometer.
That sounds something.
So the dude, so the dude creates this, right? And it's probably back in a time where it's like,
that's the thing. Yeah, that's it. That's the thing. Yep.
What is it?
The Crooks Radiometer. That's it. That's the thing. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That doesn't instill confidence when it's called the Crooks Radiometer.
The guy's name is William Crooks.
I know. It's a joke. It's like, dude, you want to buy my device? It's Crooks.
It's
this is exactly it. Yeah, this
demonstration
is
of a heat engine run by light energy. That's cool. But at the time, he was like, just fucking mind blown kind of thing. Like, what?
Yeah, but some of this shit is so dumb. Like if you go look, like I just did a search for free energy on YouTube, right?
Oh, God.
And one of the devices is literally an alternator connected to a motor. So the alternator from the car is connected to a DC motor, and then the DC motor is connected back to the alternator. And by starting to spin it, it just spins forever. But that would imply it'd have to be 100% efficient. Like
it can't be
in a vacuum, and it still wouldn't generate any energy.
Heat, and you're losing power. There's no
it's just I don't get why, but it has 2.2 million views. Then there's a guy on here 3.1 million views. Ancient free energy device recreated the what is it, Bosch Karaz wheel. This is like I do like the idea that the Pyramid of Giza is some sort of like ancient sodium reactor or I haven't heard that one. Yeah, there's and I'm sure there's like ancient aliens sort of like conspiracy shit. I don't know, but there's talk that it could have at one point have been like a sort of nuclear, but it was like a microwave generator to beam energy either into space or to other points, similar to what Tesla wanted to do with broadcast using the ionosphere to broadcast electricity around the world and stuff like that. There's weird shit like that, talking about how because like there is some weird tribute stuff when you want to go down that path where like a lot like a spooky amount of hold on a second. Ian Rob. What are you doing? Oh, one of the kiddos. No, so I'm looking through some of these free energy machines here on YouTube, and it's like some of them are so dumb, like a wheel with magnets on it. And he's like, "Oh, free energy permanent magnet motor version 2. This is a prototype in an attempt to get free energy with our kits." Nine. Oh, that one only has 9,000 views, but it was just yesterday. 2 million views. Renewable energy is a scam we all fell for. Okay, at least that guy's knocking it down. Over Unity, infinite free energy, 65,000 views 1 month ago. It's called, and that's the one that I talked about that has an alternator and a motor. What the hell's going on over there? We thought you were getting murdered.
That was a trip. Yeah, man, I thought so too. Fucking the fucking little girls in here, freaking giggling and shit, thinking getting haunted or something. It's fucking weirdos just breaking into the house without saying nothing.
Oh man. Oh geez.
Man. Yeah. Pyramids and shit. Oh, I didn't get to finish. There's a lot of like ancient sites, like the really coolest ones. All are like a whole bunch of them are on a line that rides like I think it's like 30 degrees to the ecliptic or something like that. If you like wrap a circle around the world at 30 degrees off of the equator, I think is what it is. There's like the pyramids are there. There's like I can't remember exactly the whole list of them, but there's a bunch of them that all run along this one like 30-degree line around the world. And it's kind of a trip.
Well, I know the Egyptians are still somewhat of a mystery. Like we still study everything that we find because the shit that they did doesn't seem possible. Like even because they've tried to recreate the shit with like block and tackle and stuff these days, and they still fail.
The math that's locked up in the pyramid, like the relationships to the angles and like the lengths and stuff, the way that it's like just the precision of it and all that stuff is so freaking crazy, man. It's
hermetically sealed jars that last like thousands of years. Like,
yeah, man, that's
like
nuts.
That's
5,000-year-old honey. Yeah. And stuff. Yeah, man, it's a trip.
Or like, what was the name of that device that they found in the ocean? That was that like 2,000-year-old mechanical device that had precision cut gears in it. What was that thing called?
Something calculator or computer. They figured that out.
Ended up
They
like
figured that out.
X-raying it or something and figured out what it was. Isn't
Yeah,
it
you
like
can
some kind of
rebuild it.
astronomy thing?
Uh-huh.
Like, to figure out like the states of the planets and the solar system or something.
Yeah.
Still, they did that like 2,000 years ago. And it's like precision cut gears. They said the precision that this shit had to be made at for it to function and serve its purpose is like wild.
No, that's
the Anti-Kithra.
Anti-Kithra, yeah.
The Anti-Kithra device. It's like you look at that stuff and you're like, they didn't have the technology. They weren't even close. They weren't even within 1,500 years of having the technology to do that.
No. We do not give our ancient ancestors the credit that they deserve. Like we're just as there's no reason to think that they were less intelligent than us. That they were less capable of figuring out the relationships of mathematics. Like they may not have had the same like vocabulary or symbols that we use, but there's no reason to think that there wasn't some ancient equivalent of Einstein back then. Look at Archimedes. Just look at Archimedes. That's 4,000 years ago or something crazy. Why that guy was pulling off all kinds of crazy stuff that people weren't thinking about back then.
Or Leonardo da Vinci is like one of my favorites.
That's a great, more contemporary example.
Yeah,
like
Leonardo da Vinci
was building
like
tanks and helicopters,
tanks,
that work.
boats, and like warships. Like the dude made everything.
Yeah.
Flying devices that would have worked with slight modification.
Yeah, and
like,
so
the dude was really close.
And so it's really it's not fair to say like, oh well, they're 10,000 years ago. It's 10,000 years ago. They were just stupid. So come on, man. Look at what they did. Look at it. There's no reason to think that
if
they were
had
any less
to the
intelligent.
Same speed of communication that we had today. Like if you went back and you grabbed one of them, you brought it forward. I think they would acclimate within a period of time and be just as intelligent as anybody else, if not more.
Yeah, man, and that's just crazy. And I feel like there have been different moments in time.
Right? The aquifers and shit, like that
there
stuff
are
blows
roads,
my mind.
There are
Absolutely
roads the Romans built that are still being used today.
Yeah, like when was the last
admittedly,
time you
it's
saw a
like
project?
Cobblestones and stuff, but like
when was the last time you saw a project that we've embarked on that takes 100 years or 200 or 300 years? Yeah. Like they were committed back then. They were like, we will still be here in 300 years. We're going to start building something today that we can't even flip the switch and turn on and use for like 100 years. Like the aquifers that they built down on the mountains that were like 100 miles long above the ground.
They had plumbing and stuff.
Yeah.
In ancient Rome, they had fountains that worked, that bubbled and blurbed. They had all the bathhouses and stuff, and this is 2,000 years before Christ, kind of stuff. Like,
and it survived long enough for us to analyze it.
Turn it down. I'm sitting right in front of the TV. Let me be that loud.
Kids, you can't live with them, but you're forced to.
I'm supposed to be here by myself. They're fucking. God bless America.
You got to go out there and be the old man.
Yeah,
be quiet. I'm in here working.
I would turn the internet off for everything but my computer, man. There's fucking kids.
Dude, if you did that, you would never ever be rid of them just harassing you the entire time. Like
that's true.
If the internet goes down, I just go hide in a closet. Like my son's playing VR or something, and the internet goes down, and like Rec Room disconnects or whatever. I just go hide because they'll just be like, "Is it on yet? Is it on yet? Did you fix it? Is the internet back? Is the internet back?" Because my God, does he love VR?
It's crazy, man.
See, we need VR today to live like the ancient Egyptians. They didn't have to back then because they were the ancient Egyptians. See, so they had an edge.
Man,
the Baghdad battery was cool.
Well, okay, so it's just a jar with some metal in it and stuff. Yeah, but so the basic concept of a battery is, you need
two types of metal, right? You need two types of metal and an electrolyte or some kind of
electrolytic catalyst.
Yeah, some kind of catalyzer.
It'll naturally occur if you get the right stuff.
Here's the thing, though. I want to know what the hell they used it for.
That's the trick.
We still don't know why the hell they made these things. Like, what were they powering with them?
What were they doing with it?
Were these like jump batteries for the cars we haven't found yet, or the spaceships that they left? I mean,
that's why I do think there was at some point in the past a global, not so much like civilization where everybody was one big community across the planet, but I find it hard to believe that there wasn't some sort of interaction with other cultures across the planet. We've already found evidence that Africans made it from the west coast of Africa across the Atlantic into South America. We've shown that
They had to. Yep.
the Vikings made it to North America 1,000 years before Columbus ever did. So why couldn't that have happened even further back? Like,
you know what blows my mind is like, have you seen the plans for the Mayflower? Like the ship? If you look online, there's people that have recreated the Mayflower based on its dimensions and its size and its weight and everything. And it's like that ship would have handled like a fucking pig. It would have been slower than shit. And they managed to cross an ocean channel without any support going into harbor for any supplies. I think what did it take them like 6 months or some shit?
Oh,
like,
it had to have been a long time.
It was a long time to cross like a treacherous ocean, and they had no GPS. They had no well, granted, they were just like aiming for shit, trying to hit whatever. But the fact that they did that and they crossed like one of the most treacherous parts of the ocean that we don't even cross today because there's safer routes. like it just blows my mind that they did that. It's like they were that good of sailors that they could take like a piece of wood that's just soaking water through and constantly filling up, and people are every day 2 guys are having to bucket the water out of the ship, and for months and months and months, and they managed to make it here. And not only that, colonize and follow up with a bunch more ships. It's just like wow.
Or there's evidence that the Vikings had like sophisticated trade routes with maybe not all the way to China, but like the western edge of that space. They dug up a couple burial mounds, and the guys had rings that like had Arabic on them, Arabic characters and stuff. So that's like at least North Africa and the Middle East kind of stuff. There's it's just freaking crazy, man. It's weird to assume that like only in the last 2,000 years have we really been like more than monkeys, and like that's outrageous. We've been outstandingly intelligent for at least the last 15,000 years. And there's no reason to think that we couldn't have done some like outrageously, incredibly cool things. Look at what people can do.
I honestly
you
think
watch those survival
dumber.
shows and shit, man. Like people are like, I don't know. It's just crazy.
I seriously think we've actually become dumber, like as a whole, maybe not as some individuals, but as a whole. I feel like we've been dumber because we depend so much on the technology, right? That a bunch of people had to come together to create a technology that we become dependent on. So we don't know how to pathfind for shit now because we have GPS. So it's like you could drive to the grocery store and forget where it is now if you didn't go to it with the GPS the first 5 times. And some other things like building stuff. Like now we rely on CNC machines. So you have less people learning the craft of making stuff from hand on like Bridgeports and stuff like that. They're just using, computer numerical control stuff. Yeah. And so as that goes on and time goes on, it's like you're going to have the guy who's smart enough to build the CNC machine, but he's not smart enough to make anything the CNC machine would make. It's weird to think about it, but you're going to eventually run into a time where people are so dependent on technology filling in the blanks that nobody actually learns the core skills that the technology took away from us. And at that point, when you have total, automation, it goes one of 2 ways. Either it's like, Wall-E and we're all floating around on our ships and our hover chairs or whatever, playing on the internet, which I'd argue we are already heading in that direction. Yeah. Or the other thing is we end up just trying to destroy it all because we have no purpose. Like we eventually get to a point where it's just there's nothing to do but just sit around and pontificate because everything's already handled. Like you don't have to take out the garbage. You don't have to think about anything. It's just all handled.
Humans are inherently creative creatures,
but we create technology. If we have nothing to create technology, it's like breeding now.
If we have nothing else to do, we'd create art. We create just to create. It'd be whatever people.
You don't think we'd get frustrated with the technology and like grab a hammer and beat the shit out of it?
No. I think I mean it's been shown in small ways. Like look at universal basic income experiments. There's always the argument that if we just give people their basic needs, they won't work, they won't do anything. Bullshit. Look at Minecraft. Look at all the crazy cool shit people do for free for no payment other than the fact that they want to.
That's true.
In all of these sort of creative sandboxy sort of games. Or in these places that have done UBIs where productivity increases, general like satisfaction and happiness and all this stuff, people will create to just to create.
See,
they want to.
I think that's cool. Like, here's the thing.
Well,
I'm not saying it couldn't go that way. It totally could go that way. But I'm like, what happens when the machine is a better coder than a human, and a machine is a better artist than a human, and everything that you create is beneath or lesser than what the machine can do in a fraction of the time? It's like people start to lose what is human and what is machine. Like when that line is blurred. You know, when Uncanny Valley goes away and you can't tell whether a video is real or fake, which we're really close to, by the way. I've seen some Unreal videos now where I swear I had to watch it like 5 times to figure out it wasn't a real person.
The Unreal 5 demo where they had Keanu Reeves talking.
Yeah, I thought it was Keanu Reeves
until the actual actor walked in. Yep, I thought that was him. I was 100%. Like, man, they did a great job making him look like he was back in the day. Like they did a great, some VFX magic there to make him look a little younger, of course, but it didn't look completely fake until long hair fucking John Wick Keanu Reeves comes out and starts talking to himself. Then it all fell apart.
Yeah.
Then I started noticing like, oh, whoa, now I can actually see, like I can see the difference because it's side-by-side comparison.
Yeah. But you don't look for it when that's the only thing there. You don't have like a point of reference right next to it.
It all fit within the rest of the scene. It all looked the same sort of like little bit of fakeness that I can just like, suspend my disbelief and I accept that. Sure, no problem.
See, but what I think is like what happens when technology, like we're already approaching the point where technology creates technology because we already do simulations in the computer. They're like, like there's a car. I can't remember the name of it. My memory sucks. But there's a car that they created, completely let the computer create it. They just put in the dimensions. They worked on this engine to build the most efficient car that's ever been built. It's the lightest weight, highest power to weight ratio. Yeah, it was at Laguna Seca. It beat the first time out. It's their beta.
It's a weird looking fucking thing too.
It is. It looks like a spaceship.
Laguna what now?
It looks like Laguna Seca. It looks like a goddamn spaceship. Like all the suspension geometry and stuff looks organic. Because they basically gave it to a computer and said, make the strongest shape you can with the least amount of material that connects point A to point B. And it would crap out like this like weird organic structure that could handle like all the stresses that you told it had to handle. But it was minimalist. It was only designed to handle like 5% over the max load that it could ever encounter. So you end up building a car that weighs like, 2,000 pounds less than the human designed equivalent. And now your power to weight ratio is like 3x. And so I think the car's power to weight ratio is like 2,500 horsepower per ton or something like that. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And so I believe it's even electric. But it beat the track record. It's first time out at Laguna Seca. This is their first time running it. They've never done anything, and it beat like everything. They even ran a modified Formula One car there, and it beat the Formula One car in its first time out.
Yeah, here we go. Neat.
It's crazy though. But all the suspension geometry, the inside everything is organic. It looks like it was grown.
Real bio looking,
yeah. It's creepy. It's like it looks like it was grown. Like you went out and like you grew these things out of your garden and like cut down a weird tree with roots and shit and like made it something.
Hold on, let me see here where I can find a better.
Yeah, if you find a link, put it.
Better
in chat,
link for it.
It's
so
wild.
I think this is a YouTube video for it. It at least showed the preview image looked. It showed the preview image showed a was it a rocker arm? Something that it's a part of the suspension. Now this guy is just a fucking talking head for a bunch. They did show a picture of some piece of the suspension that looked all super organic. So he's talking about it, but I want to see the actual people who. Now he's got a bunch of freaking links for shop towels and bullshit in the description.
Let's see if I can find.
Man, this isn't it. That was a interesting place to start, but that's not quite the right.
Here, I think I just found it. I think I found it. Let's see, is it gonna open? Come on, get through my firewall. Okay, so this futuristic car is almost entirely designed by computer algorithms by Sarang Sheth on 3/11/2022 using a technique called parametric design or generative design. Automotive designer created the HV001 by defining a set of conditions and allowing 3D algorithms to create an organic-looking automobile.
So cool.
It's cool. So basically, is this the car? Yep, this is it. I found it. It's Yanko Designs. This one right here.
Okay.
So I'm surprised that this is the first link too when I did the search. So yeah, look at this car. It looks alien.
Yeah, that's the one I had in mind. That's the thing.
It looks absolutely alien. And it's like everything on it, the body, the monocoque, everything on it is designed by a computer. And all they did was tell it, this is like how much downforce we want. This is how long we want it or how wide we want it. That's it. And how many people they want it. And the computer designed everything else. The computer was like, oh, to take stress off the wheel and make the brakes work and reduce the friction from the air and the wheel well and stuff, create these ports.
That's
and it did it all in like this flowing organic design that can handle the stresses in the specific directions. Like where it's super weak in the direction it never experiences stress, it's like exceedingly strong in the direction that it does. And so you end up with a car that weighs nothing. Like, I wonder if they have the specs on this. This looks a lot better than the last iteration of it. Wasn't this detailed. Like you can tell they've even made the design even more sleek than it was before. It looks like something straight out of like a PlayStation game. It's wild.
Matonted asked, where does the person sit? So if you're looking at the link that Jerry posted, the very first picture on the top, you sit right in the middle. You
right
can
in the
see
middle.
the steering. I don't want to say steering wheel. It's what do they call that? The yoke, right? The yoke is right there in the center.
Yeah, the first picture at the very top,
chair.
You can see with the wheel like right in front of it.
If you flip it around, it might make more sense because then you're literally dead center of the vehicle.
It looks like a shoe designed by Yeezy.
Fucking Yeezys. I mean, he probably did something like that to make those fucking shoes, man.
Dude,
that is too cool. I want one.
That's completely designed by a computer, though. And I was like. And so they showed the process in the video that I watched. They showed they didn't obviously give up their algorithm because that's their secret sauce, but they basically built the algorithm. So all they have to do is design the specs of what they want the car to be. They just say, this is like the size, this is the power that we're going to be able to generate because they've already created the powertrain, right? So they're like, here's the powertrain, here's the basic thing. And it's like, okay, I want you to go design the suspension. I want you to design the body. I want you to design the motor mounts, everything. And it goes, and you just tell it like what stresses it's going to experience in every area and what materials you want to use. And it'll even figure it out. It just sits there for like weeks at a time, running all these different calculations. Is this better, worse? Throw it away. Machine learning, AI and everything. And when it's done, it's like we have optimized a part for you that is like 99.9% efficient. Like with current materials and current manufacturing methods, you could not possibly make a lighter part. Like this is as light as it gets for how strong it is.
So cool.
It's just, and then a lot of it is 3D printed. Yeah.
And you'd 3D print it. You totally would be.
You can 3D print titanium aluminum alloy.
You could totally do this with like one of those resin printer kind of deals almost. It just, because like, I don't know how you would get some of these with just regular additive manufacturing wouldn't quite work, right? Like,
no, the entire body for this car is 3D printed segments. It's all like titanium and they use carbon fiber impregnated nylon and stuff for like some of the panels to keep them super light but keep them strong. They have a 3D printing method where it lays a titanium wire in as a weave. So it feels like plastic, like the surface feels like plastic, but it's as strong as like steel because of the wires running through it.
Yeah.
And it's strong in one direction, but not the other. But it doesn't have to be strong in the other direction because the computer's computed, okay, this part here only takes force from this side and this side, or the suspension only takes force at this angle and this angle. And it only makes it strong for that. And it makes it weak in the other direction. It's never going to be stressed. And so by doing that, it just maximizes the efficiency of it. And it's just freaking wild, man. And even if you can't 3D print the part, what it'd be able to do is cut you a foam mold on a CNC machine. And then you take the foam mold and you just lay carbon fiber over it.
Yeah.
And then take out the foam and you've got a carbon fiber, for the bigger parts, I'd imagine that's what they would do. Wow. But it's like, it's just the coolest looking thing ever. It's like, because that'd be a manufacturing fucking nightmare. Like,
using traditional methods would be out. There's no doing this. What'd you do? You could carve it out of fucking.
Yeah, Ford would be like, what? We couldn't manufacture this for like any price. But that's the thing is these guys are building cars that are going to be multi-million-dollar supercars.
Yeah,
but nobody else is going to be like them because everybody else is using traditional methods. Cool. Well, they're using like this really crazy, like let the computer decide. Wow. And the cool thing is that they want another model. All they have to do is go in and be like, oh, I wanted another foot longer and I want it pointier at this end. And the algorithm's like, all right, I'm going to go build you a new model. And it's like, oh, you got a new model. It's like you didn't have to hire somebody to do it. And that's kind of what I was getting at earlier, where it's like once we create computers that can make art, once you create a program that can generate, like legitimately use what we would consider creativity to create a creative artwork, based on some parameters. Humans are going to be more about putting the parameters in than creating the thing themselves from scratch.
I've talked about this with somebody before. I do think when we get to a point where like machines are creating that can create at least on par with human, I do feel like the creativity part is still a little weird, but we'll go back to appreciating handmade stuff more. You'll like when all of your standard consumer stuff is being made by machines, and we're seeing this more and more, like with Etsy and
we kind of already do that, right? You're right.
Handicrafted sort of marketplaces and stuff, where people are willing and want to, where handmade or human made will be the like a distinguisher of not necessarily quality, but
it's like
of artistry, of creativity, of I don't want I could punch in parameters and I could have my robot make me a thing, but I appreciate that a human being made this.
Just
and
knowing
it might cost
somebody
more,
made it, right?
Or they
because like I look at like jewelry, right? So have you seen the synthetic diamond? Well, that used to be cubic zirconia, but now they just make lab perfect diamonds. Have you seen that? So now there's this jewelry you can buy that's like you can get like a 14 karat stone for about $1,000 that would cost like $100,000 if it was a naturally occurring gemstone, and it's absolutely flawless with no internal fractures or stresses. It's absolutely perfectly clear, because it was generated in a lab under hundreds of thousands of tons of pressure and a ton of heat over a couple of weeks, transforming carbon into diamonds in a lab. Like they're literally like growing diamonds. But if you looked at it, if you put two rings next to each other, the fake one is the clearer one with the more sparkle. And that's the one you'd be like, I want that one. But the truth is, the one that's not flawless, its flaws are what make it more expensive. Is because you will never find, you could search the entire universe, you're never going to find another stone that is exactly like that one. Whereas the other stone that you're buying for $1,000, they're mass producing that. So even though they're both diamond, they could both be crushed into dust and like cut through titanium with them, right? But it's one of them, because it's naturally occurring, that makes it much more desirable. It's like supercars. They're all hand built, right? All the supercars now, like even the new Ferraris and stuff, they have somewhat of an assembly line, but it's like in the engines, they cryogenically freeze the pistons and stick them in and stuff. But it's like the engines are still mostly assembled by hand. The cars are assembled by hand. If you buy a Koenigsegg or you buy not Lamborghini, Audi's completely automated now, but a lot of these cars are just built by hand. And like the Pagani Huayra, I love that car, the Huayra. It's like that thing's completely hand assembled. Like they're like laying the panels in the factory and drying it and painting it and sticking it on the car and everything. It's like the whole car is like artisan hand built. So that every bolt on that car has been turned by a human, that that very minimal but robots have touched it.
Yeah. And
so, but that car costs you like $4 million, but you can go buy a car that'll absolutely just kick its ass for like $100,000 if you buy something that was assembled in the factory. It's like you can go buy a Nissan GTR and strap on like $5,000 worth of parts and it'll just kick the shit out of the Huayra all day long. But there's a lot of people, including myself, that I would way rather have the Huayra, because they only build so many of them a year, and every single one of them is customized to the customer's standard with like the fabric they want and everything. So like no two are identical, really.
Yeah. And
I think that's cool. And that's so I agree with you. I think that the artisan nature of it is going to be a big determining factor, like especially if you like advertise how you're doing it, like if you did like a YouTube video or something of you actually making the piece, and people could say that this is like the certificate of authenticity, like for a fact that this guy didn't just like paint the first one on and then let the computer paint the other 1,000,
right?
As long as you had some kind of certificate of authentication or something like that, I think that it would be a lot more valuable to somebody like that, like maybe not the average person, but to somebody who can appreciate it, somebody who's an enthusiast in whatever you're making. I do think that they would go for it.
I totally think. Yeah.
Eric, thank you for the $10 super chat, brother. He said there's a line that David says is Rodney in Stargate Atlantis that actually rings very true. If our civilization wouldn't have gone through the Dark Ages, we wouldn't be hundreds of years further we would have been hundreds of years further in our development. True story.
Yeah.
We actually still hold ourselves back. That's dude. It's like I was thinking the other day. I was like, dude, what if organized religion never existed? Like, what if you didn't have people saying, oh, nope, we can't clone people, that's playing God. Nope, you can't do that medical procedure because that's playing God. Nope, you can't do that because it's playing God. It's like all these things that we got held, the Salem witch trials and shit like that. Like, we did so much stuff to scare people into advancing. Like, when you look at, God, I can't remember the name of the philosopher, the one that said the earth wasn't flat. Is that Galileo? It wasn't Galileo.
I don't remember.
So anyways, he basically got thrown out of the science academy and like shunned by everybody and told that he was like a fucking idiot. And then like 300 years later or whatever, another guy's like brings it up and they're like, oh, you can prove it now because we have the technology. So, oh, wow, great discovery. But the other guy basically had like his life ruined because he had the theory, even though he was right. He was considered a madman because people were like, no, this is the way we believe it. This is the way that the book says it's supposed to be. So, just shove it. And I think that's terrible. I think it's absolutely terrible that we still do that even today. Like the genetic research has been held back so much. Oh my gosh. Like we would definitely have better cures for cancer and stuff than we have today. What's Galileo?
And Galileo for Copernicus saying the earth orbits the sun.
Oh, okay. So I know there was one the one that I watched the YouTube video for was like the guy that said that the earth wasn't flat and people were like, you're a heretic or whatever and a dumbass, like, and they kicked him out of like the scientific society where everybody pontificated. And
I think it wasn't so much flat earth. That's another weird thing, man. Humans have known that the earth is round for a very, very long time. I don't know where the misconception that like medieval peasants thought the world was flat, like that's super wrong. No, everybody knew the world has been round for a long, long time. They've proved it way, 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 way back. But it was it's more the heliocentric versus what is it? Heliocentric is the sun in the middle, where Earth-centric, I can't remember, where the Earth is in the middle and everything orbits the Earth. That was the Galileo thing, where and then he eats wormwood or something and kills himself.
Yeah, his life was ruined. Like he was
that
absolutely
was for saying
that
Earth was geocentric. Thank you. Yeah, that was for fighting against the geocentric model.
Okay, so let's see. Flat Earth theorizing follows from a mode of thought called the zetetic method. The zetetic method is an alternative to the scientific method developed in the 19th century. Flat earthers in which sensory observation reigns supreme. And that's what it was. People just were like, the truth is whatever we collectively say it is. Like science doesn't matter. Like if you don't fall in the consensus of the majority, then that's not the truth.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is even today we still do that on many things. And we shouldn't. The science should always, like, even if the science proves you wrong, that's good science. Like follow the science. And this is during a time when they didn't do that, right?
Yeah. And
so a lot of people, had the right idea, and we just got pushed back hundreds, sometimes in some cases thousands of years, because people just wouldn't listen. They weren't ready for it. It's like they thought that the Earth was like a disc floating in the ocean. They thought the ocean was infinite, that the ocean was
turtles all the way down.
Yeah, it's wild, man. It's like, but we look at that today and we're like, man, how could anybody believe that? But it's like they didn't have the same tools that we had today. Like it took a lot more effort to be able to figure things out back then and put things together, right? They didn't, even though they were intelligent people and they were capable of language, obviously, and talking to each other and having a society, they were so held back by politics and religion that they couldn't move forward. It just slowed us down to a freaking scream and halt. And it's like the technologies we have today are absolutely fascinating. Like, I love watching like technology videos on YouTube where they just show like new technology, like the surgical robots that they use, like the Da Vinci system.
That's so cool.
Like the fact that a doctor can just like log into the server and operate on you from the East Coast to the West Coast with milliseconds of like 1 millisecond of delay or 0 milliseconds. It's like cool. Inside of your body operating on you while the nurses are there supporting you. It's the craziest thing.
They did a surgery in, I want to say it was like in New York, but the operator was in Germany.
Yeah,
like with the little dado thingies, and he's
got his little head in the little screen thing, and he's manipulating the little manipulators, and the robot on the other side is like turning it into these little micro movements inside of the body.
Yeah, man,
absolutely mind blowing. The other one is like people don't realize how complex cancer treatment has got. It was even far beyond what I thought it was. Hey, Robert, thank you so much for the $20 super chat. We appreciate that support, brother. We really do. So the cancer treatment that I was watching, and I just randomly was looking for nuclear videos because I like watching like nuclear reactors fire up, and I like watching videos on like cobalt 60 like glowing under 10 feet of water. It's like you even standing close to it, you get an instant lethal dose of radiation, and it's like you're not even doing anything with it, you're not reacting it with anything, just cobalt 60 from its time of creation for like the next 12 years will just like murder you if you get anywhere close to it. And it's like substance, and we create substances like this. Like we create these radioactive sources that are just absolutely out of control for like imaging the ground and stuff. And but one of them I came across was something called the gamma knife, which is something we've had for a while, but it's actually perfected. And what it is it's a series of ionizing radiation, like laser beams, if you will, right?
Yeah.
That aren't visible to the human eye, and there's like thousands of them in a grid, and then there's like this mask of tungsten, because tungsten blocks this radiation, and all these little tungsten bars move around and stuff to shape the laser in a very specific way, and they pin you down to a table, position you like flawless. They have to position you perfectly, like they go in there and they have to line your body up like perfectly with the image in the computer, and then latch you down. And then once they latch you down, this computer, it goes around and it fires these lasers in such a way that where they converge inside of your body is where it's most powerful. But each laser on its own doesn't produce enough radiation to kill too many cells. But when they all converge together at a point inside of your body, that's the focal point where it's like putting a magnifying glass on an ant. Like, so you have all these ionizing radiation lasers going into your body, but they only focus. They come together. They're all pointing from different angles, slightly different angles, but they converge at a spot inside of your body where the lasers cross over like this. And at that crossover point of those lasers, super high intensity radiation. Because I was like, how do they focus that? Because I always wondered, I was like, how the hell do they focus a beam of radiation inside you without like killing all the cells on the surface? How do they do that, right? And I found out it's because they use thousands of weak beams that converge into one spot, so it's a really strong beam on the inside.
Okay.
And it's absolutely wild because these machines can go in and you like the machine will image you, and then they'll put you in the position, and the lasers will go around from the image, and it can see your tumor exactly, a 3D model of the sumbitch, and like irradiate the whole thing flawlessly without killing any of the tissue around it. And I'm like, holy shit, that's crazy. That is the craziest shit I've ever heard. Like, go look it up sometimes, guys. And there's a ton of machines that do it. Like, apparently these machines have been around for years and years and years. They're just getting way better, way faster, and way safer. But because I was kind of curious what happened to Simone Yutz, because Simone Yutz had a brain tumor.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And she had that. Remember that thing she made the lamp out of? The thing that pinned her face down. It was like a grid or whatever. Like they showed in this video, they showed how they make that, because they have to hold your head perfectly still so this knife can go in and target that brain tumor without hitting any of your sensitive, organs.
Yeah.
And it's just wild because you're just sitting there and the machine's just going around you, and it's like beep, like an X-ray machine. Beep, beep, and it just does that for like 12 or 15 seconds every couple of days. And the tumor just starts dying and shrinking. Well, the cells around it live. And I'm like, dude, that is wild. Like, who came up with that? Because I never thought about that. I never thought, oh, what if you just converge a bunch of little beams into a big beam? That never even crossed my mind as a solution. But it totally works, right? It's like if I shine a cat pointer at you, like a cat laser pointer, it's not going to do anything to you. Like if I shine it in your eye, it might piss you off. It's not going to do any damage. I mean, I've literally looked right into one of those like little, 5 milliwatt lasers or whatever. You're not supposed to. Don't do that. But I can do it all the time. And I still have perfect vision. So because it looked like the speckly like radiation storm, because it was, but imagine if I had 1,000 of those and I focused them all on a single point. The energy would grow exponentially. Like now that laser isn't 5 milliwatts, it's 500 milliwatts. And now it's a watt. Now it's 2 watts. And all of a sudden I start burning shit with it. And it's like, but the only place it would burn is where all the beams converged. Right after that convergence point, they scatter again.
Yeah.
So it's just cool to think that it's doing this like inside of your body to like get the depth of the laser. It's like and inside of your body, that thing's moving. The convergence point's moving. It's just going up and down your tumor like this, just killing the cells. Well, not killing the cells around it. So they can kill a tumor deep inside of your brain.
Yeah.
Now they have to be careful. Like they don't want to go in by your like sensitive things like your optic nerve and the cells around there. They avoid it. So the computer figures out like a plan of how to converge the beams where the ones coming out the back of your head or whatever aren't hitting other sensitive organs. Yeah. But now you can have like these deep brain tumors that are completely inoperable, and they can still like do this radiation treatment in combination with chemotherapy and like knock out these brain tumors and have your body just reabsorb them. And I'm like, dude, that is the craziest shit I've ever seen in my life. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Man.
Wait, Jerry, they have a warning on them not to do that. I know the lasers. Yeah. It says right on the side, do not shine this into your eye. I know, man. I grew up eating glue chips. Like my
lead paint.
My life. I blame lead paint. Absolutely. I'm sure my grandpa had slathered that shit on all the walls in the house I grew up in. No, when I was a kid, it's a miracle I'm alive. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I've done some really dumb shit in my life that it's like an absolute miracle I'm alive. I've rolled a truck before. I've fallen off of a 2-story house on the concrete before. I'm trying to think of it. My dad electrocuted me. Like, well, I didn't die. So he shocked me with a 40,000 volt coil in a race car that sent me cruising back into a blueberry bush. And I thought I was going to die and couldn't breathe. I've shocked myself a million times working on flybacks on televisions and stuff. And if you know that the capacitor in a TV can kill you. And I've had one of those discharge and hit me and it fucking stuck me in a wall. So I've had a lot of stuff happen where it's just pure fucking dumb luck that I'm still alive today. But I learned from a lot of those lessons. It made me respect power. Like, I do not like wiring outlets. Like, if I do an outlet in my house, I shut down the main breaker for the entire house, not just the breaker for that outlet. And when I come up there with a flashlight, and I still wear gloves and I still check every wire because I'm so afraid somebody's going to turn the damn thing back on again, even though I know they won't. I put a little tape sign on there, even if I'm the only one home. It's like, it's a very nerve-wracking experience for me just because I've been hit with electricity so many times. I know how it feels like when it's really bad. Like, you're just like, whatever, live wires.
I still remember one time I was replacing, my mom wanted a dimmer switch in her bedroom. And so I'm like, switches are easy. No big deal, whatever. And I'm not flipping the switch at the breaker. This is dumb. I'm just swapping a switch. It's no big deal.
I know where it's going.
Made it through the whole process. No big deal. No problem. I'm not stupid. I'm not going to grab I'm not grounding myself. I'm not going to touch these two things at the same time. I gotta get the thing back into the box. And, a couple little bits of the two wires are kind of sticking out from behind.
You gotta crush it all in behind the box.
Smoosh it all back together. Man, my fucking dumbass. I grabbed this thing like, okay, and I push both the ends of these wires down.
Did your arms kick up?
Yeah. Jesus Christ! Oh my God! Oh man.
The thing that sucks with AC, and I mean it does it with DC too, but with 120 volts AC at that kind of
15
amperage,
amps, right? Yeah,
it grabs you and pulls you. Like,
dude,
it doesn't
hurt.
You grip onto that shit harder than you've ever gripped anything in your life.
It's like the briefest for like the. Just literally like the blink of an eye. It is like, it's like every muscle. It was probably up to my elbow at least before it resisted too much. It was like you just said, like I grabbed the thing as hard as I fucking could, harder than I could myself.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to drive your muscles like that. Yep.
And oh my God, you feel sore and like the tips of my thumbs felt like just a little burnt. Did you
instantly feel tired afterwards too? Like, you feel exhausted?
My arm. I remember my arms feeling ridiculously tired. Like
every
sore,
time
like
I got shocked, I felt like my body was asleep. Like when your foot goes to sleep, my whole body had that tingly sensation, and I'd be like worn out. Like I'd be feeling like I just ran a mile. Like, oh God, I'm struggling to stay awake.
With a light bulb had broke off inside the socket, so like the twisty bit and the wires are still in there, but all the glass is gone.
Thing, did you?
And no, man, I just reached up in there and started going like this. Because again, I know how this works. The center of the thing is one end of the wire, and the outside edge is the other end of the wire. So as long as I just touch the edges, it's like playing fucking Operation, man. No big deal. You go eat. And at one point I reached too far and I touched the side and the centerpiece. Oh man, okay, and let's get back up in there.
Now, if you ever do that with both hands, if you ever get the ground and the positive terminal, one in one hand, one another, you're dead.
Man, I believe it.
10 volts from the wall. If it goes through your chest, you are dead. That's
how it was with that light
more
switch.
Your heart needs to die.
That's how it was with that light switch. I was hot, and the negative with both thumbs pushing down.
Oh shit!
That would have went right through. That went right through me. Sure, I could have. I guess
you're lucky to be alive, dude.
It's household current. Yes, technically is enough to kill you, but it's very, very rare.
Did it blow the breaker, or was it old construction with fuses?
I don't think it. No. This was new enough that it was proper flippy switch breakers.
I've been
I don't think it
shocked
did.
once.
I don't think it did.
Since I've lived here in this house, I've been shocked once, and it blew the breaker almost instantly. Like all I felt was like a tingle and a pop.
Yeah,
and it was one of the GFCIs in the bathroom.
Like
And,
voltage hurts. Like you can
yeah.
zap yourself all the time. You lick a 9-volt battery. It's the amperage, right?
It's the amperage that kills. Yeah, it's not the voltage.
Tasers, that's 1,000,000 volts, but it's probably like half an amp.
Well,
so it's not.
The higher the voltages, the easier it is for it to ionize and jump a distance. So higher voltage is good for tasers and stuff like that because it can jump. But amperage kills. It's like and so higher voltage, low amps, you hurt
amp,
people.
I think. One amp, I think, can kill you.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't take a lot. Like
but not.
Yeah, it's like microamps. I think it's like, what is it, like 400 microamps or something like that to stop your heart. It doesn't take a lot. So that's why, I mean, you're really lucky if you took it on both arms. Like if you just take it on one arm, it's not that big of a deal because what it'll do is it'll just go through your body and exit out your leg.
That's one of my favorite things. My brother was going through like this electrician's sort of training stuff. He was learning. He wanted to get certified to be some sort of electrical certification, and he's watching all these safety videos. And one of these videos shows a guy reaching into one of these big fucking high voltage boxes, right? And big for some
like transformer
for something,
stuff.
some monster thing. And it's like grainy security footage, and the guy reaches in to do some stuff, and all you see is a flash of white. The whole thing's just overexposed, and then nothing left but the dude's boots.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you'd assume like, oh, he disintegrated or something. But what really happens is you flex so hard that it kicks you. Your own muscles like contract and push and pull all at the same time so hard that you like blast yourself back. You throw yourself back.
And you're lucky if that's what happens, because sometimes the opposite happens and it pulls you into it. Yeah, and then once it pulls you into it, you got to hope somebody turns off the power and knocks you off of it.
Oh, man, fluorescent bulbs. Dub says I was installing a 4-foot fluorescent 2-bulb kit and got shocked. For the household current, though, right? Because, like, man, those ballasts, that'll fuck you up.
That would probably
super high
you.
voltage.
Yeah.
That will probably fuck you up. Bad.
Yeah, I was scared working on the ballast because I put those xenon projector headlights in my car, like my old car that I had a long time ago, and so I had to fix one of the ballasts because it had a blown capacitor, and just opening it because it had high voltage all over it. Like there's yellow high voltage, do not open with the little death symbol of the guy. And so I opened it up. I wore gloves the whole time. My friend did most of the work with the soldering because I didn't even want to touch the circuit board.
Did you have your Live Strong anti-static band on?
Dude, no, I didn't. But the thing is, it says on it, like, it's like produces 20,000 volts. And it's actually at a decent amperage too, because it like charges up. It's like these ballasts, like when you turn on the headlights, it doesn't come on immediately. It's like you turn on the headlights and it takes like a second, and then the headlights go pew, get super bright, and then they kind of like come down under the normal brightness. Yeah. And it's because that ballast just kicks charges whatever gas is in that bulb. It hits it with literally a taser. And these boxes are pretty big too. Like they're about the size of, like, each one of them was about the size of an ECU in a modern car. And I was afraid to touch those things, man. Like, you should have seen the warnings on it, though. Like, you could tell they didn't ever want anybody that bought a car with these in them to touch them. Like, they had like death signs all over them, red lightning bolts.
Or like getting into the back of a oh, dude, the electric. Yeah. I popped the hood on my spaceship, and it's like, don't remove this panel.
Yeah,
like,
and big gnarly red wires that are like super duper insulated, and like the end connectors or whatever, all covered with like plastic shields and stuff.
They got to be all bright and stuff like that for like rescue people, for emergency services. If they have to start cutting into your car, don't fucking cut this one with your Jaws of Life cutter thing, man. It'll blow up, kind of thing. Like it'll.
Does your car have that don't cut here thing?
Maybe I haven't inspected all around, just kind of.
So I think it was Tesla. I think it was Tesla where, like, if you get inside of a Tesla and you look at the A pillar that's on the side and the B pillar, it's like do not cut. It has like a little sticker. It's like do not cut. And then it has a diagram that says the back one. If you need to take the roof off the car, it's like you have to cut the back pillar and then you can cut the other two pillars, because when you cut the back pillar, you take out like the relay wire that disengages the battery pack, and then you're safe to cut the other two. But it's like defusing a bomb. If you show up and you have the Jaws of Life, your big metal Jaws of Life, and you cut through that main pillar, you're going to get 400 volts. It's super high amperage, like coming through that thing. You're dead. Like there's no way that's vaporized. energy.
Yeah.
Like
man,
your arm would just turn into vapor. Like, and I've seen that happen, man. I watched YouTube videos of guys that have been in electrical accidents. The linemen, they get hit by it, blows their fingers off, it blows their hands off. It's like they're holding dynamite. Like and they're lucky to be alive. Like if their hand didn't vaporize, they'd be dead. Like literally their hand vaporizing was what broke the circuit. like so it's like, even though it's like a really bad outcome, they're like, well, we're lucky to be alive, because if the hand didn't vaporize, that power would have just keep coursing through me.
Yeah.
And it's like, because however they touched it, the energy, like it grounded across their hand instead of their body. So it just like blew the hand off, because the energy went from like, here to here through the hand. And but if you touched it and grounded through the ground, you're done. It'd blow your arm, your legs off, your arms off. It'd be terrible.
But fuck, man, just more weird fucking electrical shit too. So my brother was one of the first freshmen. Was I think the first freshman at my high school, Auburn High, to get into the welding program. Is usually reserved
back in high school.
Usually reserved for seniors.
Yep.
But he was able to talk his way into it and really opened the door for a lot of other people to follow behind. He and a couple other people got into the welding program as like a test thing. We're gonna see if you guys aren't gonna fucking kill each other and stuff with this, because it's crazy. Man, some dumbass left something connected wrong. So I guess it was like I don't know the right kinds of weldings and stuff, but I think it's not arc welding, it's like MIG or TIG welding, something like that. You hook a ground to the metal table that you're working on.
Yeah, I actually done welding a ton, so I'm actually experienced with welding.
And then you're doing your thing. Well, I guess somebody before him or something like that, this guy walks. I can't remember if this happened to my brother or to the guy like next to him.
He somebody didn't. The ground.
Somebody didn't do the thing they were supposed to do.
Yep.
And the kid starts, and of course the kid didn't check like he ought to have to make sure everything's the way it should. But he goes to start working, and I guess he's like leaning on the table, or like you can do that as long as the table's grounded properly. It's not going to go through you. It's going to go through the thing. You
have half the least resistance. Yep.
But somebody didn't hook the thing up right, and he goes to do his thing, and it blasts him. And the stuff it blasted a hole in his shoe and left a burn mark on the concrete, because it arced through the kid into the rebar in the concrete. It was that powerful of a blast of electricity. It from the gun through the thing he was holding or whatever working on, through the kid, blasted a hole in his shoe, melted it, and then like a lightning bolt.
Yeah,
and
those welders don't.
Stuff for that.
The welders don't have breakers. I mean, they're putting out as much power as you tell them to put out. Because if they had breakers, you'd blow them by welding, right? Because you're making that connection through the wire, and it's so much of a connection. It's like superheating the wire and not vaporizing it, but melting it into a pool. That's what welding is.
That gives me the goosebumps just thinking about that.
You know how many times I forgot to put on the ground strap, and I've just gotten lucky and haven't been shocked? Because whenever I welded, I always made sure I was wearing rubber-soled shoes that didn't have any metal or any crap in them. And I always made it a habit not to lean on the table. Like wear a leather apron. So even if you do lean on the table, you got a little bit of an air gap, right, through the leather, because it's all dried out. And I'd wear gloves, because and I got lucky, because it's like you hit the little button and it goes and it lets out the wire, and this is for MIG welding, and it's like, and then the wire like hits the table and nothing happens, and then you're like, oh shit, I don't have the grounding strap. Or even if it's just not on there good, I've done it before where it just didn't bite into the table well enough, and it oxidized the surface because it was just sitting there for too long, and it doesn't make good contact, so you're like, and nothing happens, and you're like, well, something would have happened if it could find a way to get to ground. If that table can find a way to get to ground through you, like, you are royally fucked. Like, I don't see you really, like, that doesn't seem very survivable. Crazy.
Scary, man.
The only thing I can think of is that the voltage is low enough on welding, because welding you don't get big like jumps and sparks and stuff. It's the amperage that they're pushing, that you're not going to get a huge spark gap. Like, it's not going to be like a taser and jump on you or anything. Like, you're going to have direct contact with it. And I'd imagine that, it's probably going to conduct mostly through your skin.
Yeah,
like over the surface of your body, but still, dude, I would not want to be hit by that. That's gonna hurt like hell.
The old pissing on an electric fence thing. I actually did that one time. My auntie had a small horse farm at one time, and I remember at first taking like plucked like a weed, some kind of flower or something, and I was like rubbing it on the horse fence, right?
Mhm.
And it's just a little tingle. It's that way, like it's resistant enough, nothing coming through enough. But yeah, man, yeah, I did that. It's
Dude, I
not.
pissed on an
It
electric
hurts.
fence.
It hurts. It's like, but it's like 9-volt battery kind of hurt. It's not going to kill you or nothing.
Not a bull
It's enough
fence.
to. I mean, whatever
Oh my
she was
God.
using, it
Yeah.
was weak. That weak, real thin.
I don't think you
fencing,
need a
I
lot
guess.
for a horse, but like the
It
bull
was more just to
fencing
discourage
shit
them.
hurts
You know,
really bad.
It's not. You know, it's not like the fucking at the junkyard electric fence kind of stuff. It's just
Right.
because if it's more like when they rub up against it, it's supposed to like and then
Well,
okay,
my first experience with an electric fence was literally peeing on one, and it burned the shit out of the tip of. I mean, the tip of my weenie was like completely numb.
I don't recall any long-term damage. It was surprising.
My cousin
And
told
then
me to
that
do it.
was-
My cousin
yeah.
dared me to do it. He's like, "Hey, go piss on the fence." He didn't tell me it was electric. He's like, "I dare you." And I'm like, "Okay, well, this doesn't make logical sense, but I'm a kid, so sure." And I
Yeah.
went over and I fell down. He was laughing so hard because I mean, I literally
man.
like pissed all over myself.
I remember it being like like it startled me, it scared me.
Yeah.
and
you can hear it tick. Did you hear the tick off yours? Where it's like,
Yeah.
You can hear it coming off the wire, like each
Yeah.
time the circuit, because it's not constant. It just pulses the wire.
Okay.
If it was constant and you grabbed
That
it, you'd be
makes
fucked.
sense.
It just little pulses go out. But with the bull fence, they crank that shit up to 11, and if you grab it with your hand like this, you can't let go. So it just
the
sits there and
Jurassic
goes,
Park thing.
and you're trying so hard to let go of the wire, and you just it's really difficult.
That's
to let
another
go of the wire.
trippy thing too, man. I remember in middle school, going to one of the, I was like meeting a friend or something. I think my girlfriend at the time, going into one of the science classes, and the guy had a Van de Graaff generator.
Oh, I love those things, dude. Yeah.
Up on the countertop.
Yep.
And they're like, "Oh, hey, check this out. Sit on this stool. Sit on this metal stool." And I'm like, "I see where this is going. I know what's about to happen here." And he goes, "Okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to wrap your hand around the faucet here, but don't touch it. Like wrap your hand like this so that the faucet's still there, but don't touch it. That's key. Do not touch it. Okay, sit on this metal stool and go like this around the faucet head." I'm like, I know what's happening here. I know where we're going with this thing. He turns the Van de Graaff, or I think that's right. It's Van de Graaff generator, kind of a static electricity
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
got like
thing.
a ball at the top of it, and it's got like a belt running.
Looks like a
inside of it.
Tesla coil almost.
Yeah, yep,
thing.
exactly.
And I'm like, I know what's going on here. And I was still surprised though. He flipped that thing on, and my hand. I'm like, oh. He goes, "Try and let go." I guess I'm trying, and I can't let go. The thing's just like, and he's like, "Okay, that's enough." And he turns the thing. Oh, wow, how cool. And it didn't hurt, but it was like enough. It was enough to like override my neurons or something, the electrical signals in my hand. I could not. There was enough electricity passing through me that I couldn't let go of this thing. And it wasn't, I was gripping like as hard as I could, but not like really painful.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, the thing is, as long as you're in direct contact with something, you don't feel anything.
Yeah, no,
Like,
it didn't.
Only the person on the end that gets the raw deal.
It was it was a trip to think like I'm being electrocuted, but not like it didn't hurt. I just couldn't let go. Like,
well, the school that I went to, I should qualify, the alternative school that I went to, because I was like banned from all the real schools, where I met my wife. Surprisingly, we had a Van de Graaff generator in our science class in the science room with all like the Bunsen burners and shit like that. That wasn't a good combo, by the way. But what we did is the teacher showed us that if you hold hands. So if one person puts their hand on the Van de Graaff generator, and then they grab another person's hand, they grab another piece of hand, then the person on the end can literally just touch shit and shock it, like hit them with little bolts and get them good. Like it leaves a little mark.
Dad did that.
So we came up with a bright idea. We turned it on one day, and the teacher wasn't in the classroom yet. We closed the door on the classroom, and we built a chain. For me, it was like maybe 8 people from the Van de Graaff generator to the door, and the last person held the handle. And we turned on the Van de Graaff generator, and we just kept holding hands. Don't let go. And you hear the teacher go, "Ah!" And we let go. We open up the door, and he's like, "What the hell are you guys doing?" Because we knew if we held the door handle, it would shock him on the other side.
Yeah.
When he got there, but we wouldn't get hurt. Well, actually, the person holding the door handle didn't get hurt either. I know that if one person breaks in the line, like if you let go, there's like as soon as that gap forms, it'll try to jump a spark and that'll bite you pretty good.
Yeah, I
so
bet.
like you don't want to just like let go. You want to wait until it's turned off and then drain it into the Leyden jar, and then you can let go.
My dad told me a story once. He took one of those 12-volt like camp batteries, those big chunky, they're this square and it's got two big springs sticking off the top of it. They're like 12-volt. They're big 12-volt batteries for like flashlights and things, right? He said he wired one up one time he like stuck something into the end of a pencil. So graphite's pretty conductive.
Yeah.
And then had another wire. And I don't think that he must have done a little bit more, or he's telling a bit of a story without enough detail, because there's not enough oomph behind this battery to do it the way that he described it to me as a kid. So he had to have done something a little more to it. But he was talking to me about how like he'd like put his hand on somebody's shoulder or be able to just like poke him with the pencil and it'd zap him a little bit. And I always thought that was kind of funny, but just thinking about it over the years, like there had to have been something more going on. You couldn't just hook two wires to this chunk. I don't think there's enough oomph in the big, and we're talking, those big 12-volt batteries. I don't think there's enough there to really zap.
Rod like glowing red. Was he like burning them with it?
No, the way he described it, he was shocking. He was zapping people. So like he had to have had something more to it, something to step it up or something, because there's not enough really there to do that.
I don't think it's high enough amperage to even break your skin.
I wouldn't think so. Like unless you're real sweaty or something.
I've never been shocked. Well, actually, that's not true. But the only time I ever got shocked that I remember from a car was when I was hooking up a stereo system. I dumped one of the capacitors, like the 1 farad caps.
Yeah,
and I took a bit of that. Like it spark jumped on me and tagged me when I put a screwdriver across the terminals.
Sure.
And that wasn't bad. It more blinded me from like the flash.
And that might have been it. He may have rigged up some sort of capacitors or something to up, because you'd have to step it up a little bit. There's not enough amperage, right? It's the amperage to because the 9 volt will still zap
break your skin. You still need enough voltage to break your skin. Otherwise, it won't.
Better if they were wet. Like I suppose if they were slobbery or sweaty or something, you could just outright zap somebody. Because the 9 volt does it.
Do it.
The 9 volt, right? So like I imagine you could, but like I said, the way he told me the story isn't enough to say that it would have worked. He had to have done a little bit more to really make it work. But it was always a funny story. I thought that was fun. Yeah.
I know there's some ways that you can make some like pretty like janky capacitors out of like nothing. like MacGyver together a capacitor. Yeah. A capacitor is a pretty simple thing. I mean, you can make them complex to make them more efficient, but as I understand it, like you can make a capacitor just by like rolling up a piece of paper. Like you can get it to hold enough of a static buildup or a static charge. And then they have different types of capacitors. Like what's the one that like just dumps? They have a capacitor where once it fills to its peak voltage, it just dumps everything at once. I think they call them like spill capacitors or something like that. It's like what they use in taser guns. Like when you turn them on, this taser goes really fast. What that is that's the cap charging, dumping.
Oh,
off the battery to give you that. That's why you're not getting a constant voltage. Like a taser would be badass if it had a constant voltage, although you'd probably kill everybody you hit with it. But they wouldn't be able to let go or move. It would just make them completely lock up, and they wouldn't flop around or nothing. They would just go. Although they kind of already do.
I'm trying to find a picture of the battery that I think I have one somewhere. I know exactly the kind of battery I'm talking about. I'm pretty sure they're 12 volts. They're like this big. It's a square. They stand about 6 or 8 inches high, and it's got two big springs sticking off the top.
Oh,
of them.
Those are 6 volt. The ones that go in the old school flashlights.
Yeah, the big chunky fucking flashlight battery.
Those are 12 volts. They're 6.
Or 6?
Those are 6 volts. So if you had two of them, that
makes
12.
the story even less believable.
Yeah, because I used to have a flashlight.
He must have either had a few, a lantern battery. That's what they're called. So he either had a couple of these in series, like you could have carried around 3 or 4 of these things all lined up to really boost the shit out of it. That must have been it. He must have had a few of these like strung together or something. There's no way that just this thing on its own would work.
Yeah, I watched a video where a guy used I don't know. I think it was a 9 volt. It might have even been a AA. It wasn't much, but he took, just like you said, he took the graphite rod out of a pencil. He just shaved it down and got a little chunk of graphite like this, and he stuck it between the 2 wires and put it on the battery, and the graphite gets red hot.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
And he used it to start a fire. And I thought
no
that was
doubt.
cool, like a campfire. That's cool.
That's how incandescent bulbs work. You're heating up a tungsten filament, and it gets wicked hot, and
Yeah, but I think didn't they originally do like graphite filaments? They just didn't last long enough. They burned up like really quickly, and then they were like, "Ooh, tungsten and argon gas. That's how we make them last."
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
like one light bulb worked for like 100 years and is still going.
Yeah. The way to make 6 volts dangerous to use an old motorcycle coil for the spark plug and pulse it.
Oh,
yeah.
coils are,
And my
they hurt.
dad was very well, like myself, real smart, precocious kid. So like I wouldn't put it past him to have done something like that. Yeah, it could have been like 6-volt motorcycle. It could have been a motorcycle battery or something like that. The way he described it to me were these lantern batteries, the ones with the 2 springs coming off the top and that kind of thing.
As far as I know, those were only ever 6 volts.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. So and he was a real smart guy. Always been real smart. So he could have. There's whatever you might think he could have done, he probably could have, and this would have been in like 6th to 8th grade or something.
Yeah,
because like I think he said it was like middle school, and I remember he said he had rigged it up in his back or like his jacket, and he could reach out and he'd like hide the pencil like along his finger, and be able to just poke somebody, boop, and zap them. So, however you think he may have done that as a precocious child of the
your body.
Let's see. This would have been in like the early to mid 60s because he was born in 50. So middle school would have been, I
wonder if he used his
11, 12,
what if
13?
he used his body as the capacitor? Like rubbing a balloon on your head.
Possible.
And you can touch somebody and it shocks them.
Possible.
Because you can store up a voltage potential.
I could see him carrying 4 of them, 2 in each pocket, and they're wired up in series or something to really up the thing a bunch, and then.
Yeah, I'll tell you something fun you can try if you want to see what like the power of 12 volts can do under the right conditions. Well, it's not 12 volts anymore. It gets stepped up at this point. But pull a spark plug out of any engine, even out of your lawnmower, and just set the spark plug like close to some metal, like ground it out on some metal on the engine housing, and pull the ripcord, and you'll see a giant, bright, brilliant blue spark go across the spark plug. And if you touch that sumbitch, oh boy, you'll go for a ride. Like, because when I was a kid, that's how I got shocked by my dad. I told you guys I got hit by like 40,000 volts from his race car. He put in an MSD ignition, which is like even hotter ignition, right? It's supposed to make the spark on the plugs even like brighter and ignite the fuel better. And so he needed to see if it was working. So he literally told me to hold the spark plug against the engine block. And I've never done this before. And I was supposed to grab the cable, but I didn't. I grabbed it around the housing on it. And I was literally wearing sandals in wet grass.
Ouch.
And so I grabbed the thing, and he turns the ignition like once, and it just goes roof, and I just go flying back into the damn blueberry bush.
Look, you didn't die.
Dazed. I was like, I didn't even know what happened. And my dad gets out and he's like cussing me. What the fuck did you do? Did you break my car or whatever? I mean, he was a bad alcoholic. But I was like, that was a shock. Like literally shocked me in more ways than one.
Could have died.
Yeah, no, I could have died easily from that. I was only like 9 or 10 years old when it happened. Too.
Yeah, I mean, man, ignition coils, that's no joke, man. That's like ridiculously high voltage, 40,000 volts, like high end fucking zap stuff, man. Woo!
Yeah, that was a ride. So any voltage that's making that spark for that spark plug, like even the magneto on like your lawnmower, right?
Yeah,
the magneto on your lawnmower still hits you with thousands of volts.
Yes, it does. That's how they would have us check for spark in my small gas engines class. You'd undo the spark plug and just kind of leave it kind of touching the
you just ground out the outside housing.
Yeah, you just leave it lying on the block and look to see if the thing is sparking. But you got to be careful because just like you, man, you holding that thing or you're touching the block or something, it'll get you.
It bites you good. It bites you really good. that was one of the shocks I never forgot. Like I've been shocked a lot, but that was the one that the 2 that stuck with me. Actually, no, there's 3. There's 3 times I've been shocked in my life that scared the ever living shit out of me. And I thought I was going to die. And that was once from a CRT when I was reaching into the flyback to try to focus it, and I touched a metal handled screwdriver that had like wood on it for the handle, but then you grabbed it around a metal ring that was on top of the wood that like mated the screwdriver to the shaft. I was in there and I was like, it's like operation. It's grounded to this giant metal heat sink plate. And so I was putting the screwdriver through there to turn the potentiometers, and you're supposed to use a special screwdriver or discharge the tube. And I didn't do either of those things. And so that sumbitch welded the screwdriver. When I touched the side of it, it welded the screwdriver to the chassis. So I know most of the power went down through the monitor, but it hit me with enough of it that I literally pushed back into the drywall and caved the drywall in behind me. And my mom comes running down the hallway and comes to the room because she heard a loud snap and she heard me hit the wall. So she comes running in. She's like, "What's wrong?" And I was dazed and confused. Like I felt really tired. My heart was racing. I was like,
Rock you.
holy shit. Then the ignition coil was one, and then the other one that I remember, the one where I've been shocked the longest, like the longest sustained shock that I took, was working at a computer store called Mothersboard Computers in Bremerton, Washington. I used to replace the fuses and power supplies. You know those power supplies that had the soldered in fuses?
Yeah, there'd be a little thing in the back.
Yeah. And it's not the fuse on the 12-volt system, it's the fuse on the freaking 110 mains voltage coming in. And so what I did for customers, if they came in with a bad power supply and they were too cheap to just buy a new power supply, because back in that day, now you just buy a new power supply, but back then it was like they didn't want to do that. I'd take these, we offered a service where I would it's usually the fuse. If the power supply doesn't work, 90% of the time it's the fuse, like back then. Now it's a whole multitude of problems. But so I'd open them up, I'd desolder the fuse, and I'd pull it out after testing it. And what happened is I just got in the habit of leaving the thing plugged in and turning off the power strip on the bench, on the side of the bench. And what I didn't realize when I was replacing the fuse and I was in there pulling the fuse out, the guy plugged into one of the other technicians plugged something into my power strip and flipped it on. And I didn't see him doing it because my back was turned to him. So I'm sitting there in the power supply, and I remembered all I did was just fall in. I just went, and I fell into the desk, and I was just getting hammered on for like a full 2 seconds. Like it felt like an eternity. Jeez. I'm just sitting there going, and then it finally popped the fuse. It was an old building, so it had fuses instead of breakers.
Yeah.
It took like 2 seconds to blow the damn fuse, and then I doubled over. And the guy immediately knew what happened. His name was John. He runs over and turns off the power strip. He's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, dude. I didn't know, because I just didn't want to keep unplugging and plugging the cable in every time I needed to test the voltage on it."
Yeah.
So I just flipped the switch on the power strip on the side of the thing. I didn't realize he'd reached around and plugged something in and flipped the thing on. And so I learned a harsh lesson that day. And I remember sitting on the ground for the better part of an hour. My boss brought me a glass of water, and he's like, "Hey, should we call the paramedics? Should we call 911? I'm like, "Hell no, I don't got medical insurance." Like, fuck that. And so it took me a good hour before I could get on my feet. And then once I was on my feet and moving, I still felt really tingly and really tired. And then I went and got my truck and drove home. But luckily at the time I was living with my parents though. So it was literally a couple of blocks away, just down the freeway. Otherwise I wouldn't have driven any like major distance. But then I went home and I just went to sleep. I just went in my room and I just went to sleep. I was so exhausted. Like I could not believe that I survived that though. That was like, I thought for sure I was dead. The second I lurched forward and I hooked it, because what it did is it like pushed me into the power supply. So I couldn't break away from it. Like I was all T-arm like rexed into the damn thing on the desk, and I could not get my arms pulled back. And, the people weren't being very astute, around me. And I'm trying to remember, either John turned off the power strip when he saw me like frying, but I don't think he could even, because he literally just turned the switch on. So, and he saw me, so he may have just flipped the thing off, but it was either that or the fuse blew. Actually, come to think of it, I think it was John that turned it off. He turned it on really quick. He realized when I lurched forward and I was like, he's like, "Oh shit." And he turned it off because I don't think we blew the fuse. I think the fuse was still fine after that.
Yeah.
So yeah. And so I don't like electricity. I don't fuck with electricity. Hey, dude. Occupant, thank you for the subscribe. Appreciate that, brother. Oh man. Hey, we should before we wrap up, we should talk some more about the James Webb Space Telescope.
Sure.
That's kind of a big deal, man.
Yeah, man. I'm stoked. This is really cool stuff. I'm always a big fan of space stuff. So
it's already off to a fantastic start too, because they not only did everything go according to plan and they've already calibrated the instrument, and I think they hit some little hurdles, but it was nothing big. But the launch went so smoothly that they thought it was only going to last for a maximum of 10 years, and now they're saying it's going to go for 20.
I love how NASA always like undersells their shit. Like, what was the one rover we have on Mars was only it was like a 90-day mission, and the thing went for like 15 years.
Absolutely. 100%.
Like, how fucking cool is that? Man,
you get your money's worth.
Right. The ROI on NASA has got to be amazing. Come on. We've never dropped a Volkswagen on Mars before, but we're going to do it with this sky crane thing.
That was the craziest shit.
We're going to hope for the best. 14 minutes or whatever of, let's hope for the best. And it worked. Voyager. That's a great example. 45 years. The thing is still talking both of them. Both of them still floating out there for ungodly amount of time. They never thought, did they think that thing was really going to make it outside of the solar system or what? No way, man. That's amazing.
I know we still hear from one of them. I know one of them still transmitting. Which is crazy.
I would think so,
because it didn't have solar panels. Like it just has whatever energy's on board.
It's a little nuclear battery on both of them.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
because I know that one of the Voyagers, we're still picking. It's a faint signal. You have to use like a crazy Earth-based antenna to reach it or to receive the signal. But they do. It still talks. It still talks to them. It's still sending data.
Signal?
Because remember, it took pictures. I remember the Voyager. They like altered its path and took like some pictures of some of the planets like further out in our solar system.
Yeah,
that's pretty.
Apparently,
wild
in May, they got some strange signals from the probe. It says their signal hasn't weakened, suggests high gain antenna remains in its prescribed orientation with Earth, but it's getting back in May. It was sending some weird glitchy signals, but the signal was good. It's just the whatever it is they were receiving was weird. The data was weird.
I mean, that thing is being bombarded by radiation in space.
Yeah.
Like no magnetic field. It's crossed through that. What do they call it? Like the fire. Like our entire solar system is like encompassed in this like wall of plasma.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be really like fucking hot, apparently. And both Voyager probes, I think, went through that. So, wow. And they're still somehow alive and kicking.
Voyager 1 has been operating for 44 years, 10 months, and 11 days as of July 16, that's today, 2022, and still communicates with the Deep Space Network to receive routine commands and to transmit data to Earth. Real-time distance and velocity data is provided by NASA and JPL at a distance of 156.29 astronomical units, that's 23.385 billion kilometers, from Earth as of July 14th. Crazy. It is the most distant artificial object from Earth. Wow.
I'm trying to figure out where I heard that. I know it's mind-blowing, dude. Yeah, here
from
it
the
is.
70s.
89,000 degrees. 89,000 degree wall of plasma surrounds our solar system. 89,000 degrees. And just because, well, I mean, in a vacuum, it's really hard to transfer that heat. So that's why it doesn't get that hot. But still, 89,000 degree plasma surrounds our entire solar system. And both of those Voyagers like cruised through it. Well, at least I know one did. Are they both in deep space now? Are they or interstellar space, or is one of them still in the solar system?
I'm scrubbing the Voyager 1 article on Wikipedia
because I have to imagine by now both of them have left the solar system. Like,
I know I'm pretty sure the one of them has at least.
I know one of them has for sure.
Both are now. Some people are seeing it out there. Yeah, I remember they saying one of them or something had
Voyager
like it was a big deal.
Left the
like,
solar system. They're both out.
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
As of 2021, signals from Voyager 1 take over 21 hours to reach Earth.
That's just wild, man. And that's like literally just outside of our solar system. And it takes that many hours to reach it. That tells you how slow light is. Light is slow as fuck in the cosmic standard.
Oh man, when you start getting out to those sorts of distances, like it takes 8 minutes for the sunlight to get here. Like
yeah, that's the thing. That's like the frame of the whole reference frame thing that I talk to people about. It's like you observe light being really fast because your senses are really confined to a small space, right? It's like you would think molasses is fast at the molecular level if you were one atom standing next to it, right? It looked like it was going like a race car, but to the human perspective, it's really slow. Light is like that to the universe. Like for light to get from one side of a single galaxy to another side of a galaxy, it's like billions of years. To get across all of the galaxies out in space, it's hundreds of billions of years.
So in 2012, August 25th, 2012, it crossed the heliopause at 121 astronomical units and entered interstellar space.
Is the heliopause that plasma cloud thing?
The heliosphere is the magnetic sphere, astrosphere, and outermost atmospheric layer of the sun. It takes the shape of a vast bubble-like region of space. In plasma physics terms, it is the cavity formed by the sun in the surrounding interstellar medium. So imagine as like a car is moving through air, there's like that cone that goes around it. That's kind of what we're talking about. As the sun is moving through space, it's creating this weird like
plasma tail off the back of it.
Yeah. According to this picture that they're kind of showing as what a heliopause is, or the heliosphere, the bubble is continuously, and then it fades off. I'd have to click on it. That's
crazy that we can build that shit, man. It's just like, and the James Webb Space Telescope, what was that, 20 years, $8 billion?
Yeah, it took a long time to build that.
For one launch, they didn't have a backup. They didn't have nothing. If that launch had failed, that thing would have just been garbage, and they wouldn't have been able to recover. Man. So the fact that they were able to launch that, and it was literally like the biggest origami, largest thing that we've launched into space, so cool. Like it checks so many boxes. And the thing is like working like meticulously.
I love it. I like how NASA like is always super humble. They're like, hey
Yeah.
man, look, we're good. We've checked our math. We've done this a lot, and we're pretty sure. But we've had shit blow up before, so like we don't want to hype things up too much.
And plus, we can't service it. Hubble, we were able to service. We fucked up Hubble. Like we gave it like wonky eyes and had to go up and give it a new lensing system, like like a corrective lens for it, like glasses.
And it's further out, right? The James Webb thing is like
a lot further.
It's like in the shadow of the moon or something.
Yeah, because I think Hubble is like in geosynchronous orbit, isn't it? Like it's out there, and no, because then it would go behind the Earth if they looked at something. So it's got to be in some kind of stationary orbit at one of the Lagrange points. But I don't think it's out as far as James
I know
Webb.
that they had to put this one in a special spot to like protect it from behind so that they could see better.
Yeah, weird gravity well behind the moon. That's like it
here
orbits nothing. I don't really get how that works, but
let's see. It says
that's where it is.
Oh, that's a trip. Oh,
I don't know how the Lagrange point thing works.
So JWST operates in a halo orbit, circling around a point in space known as the Sun-Earth Lagrange point, approximately 1.5 million kilometers beyond Earth's orbit around the Sun. Its actual position varies between about 250,000 to 832,000 kilometers from the L2 as it orbits, keeping it out of both Earth and Moon's shadow.
I know that it's close to Earth because when they launched the mission to service it, they were literally just in Earth's orbit. Like Earth wasn't a marble; they were like in proper Earth orbit, like the ISS.
Hubble orbits at 550 kilometers, 340 miles above Earth's orbit, and the moon.
Far.
The moon is roughly 400 kilometers from Earth. So it's it depends. At some points, it's farther out than the moon. Yeah. And then sometimes it's a little closer from the moon.
Because I know we were able to service it. They said we can't service James Webb, like not in the foreseeable future because of how far it is away.
Yeah.
Like we don't have we don't have a Saturn V rocket anymore that can like reach out that far and return people back after operating on it. And you wouldn't be able to ship a very heavy payload anyways. So they said they can't even refuel it.
Orbit, the telescope can simultaneously block incoming heat and light from all three of these bodies and avoid even the smallest changes of temperature from Earth and Moon shadows that would affect the structure, yet still maintain uninterrupted solar power and Earth communications on its sun-facing side. Neat.
Yeah, the heat shield is like, what is it, like 3 layers of like mylar? Wow. And those 3 layers of mylar, it can be like fully facing the sun and like vaporizing temperatures on one side, and then on the other side it's absolute cold, like damn near close to absolute zero.
Wow. The primary mirror for JWST is like 4 or 5 times bigger than the Hubble primary mirror.
Yeah. And it's all, and they're all like beryllium mirrors. Like it's just wild. Like the vapor, what do they use? Like that vapor depositing shit to like make to put beryllium on the surface. And then I don't know if they put gold on it. I think it's just the polished beryllium, but that's what gives it that weird color.
Like kind of yellowy.
Yeah. But I mean, it's conducive to them capturing the infrared light. That's what they want, is it has to be a surface that reflects infrared light, and certain things don't. So it's just wild. It's wild that we were able to create something like that. It's crazy that it just works out of the box like that all the systems seem to be functioning. And if you look at the pictures, so they've already taken some pictures that are the same pictures Hubble took.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
And it's like, it's so much more detailed. Like Hubble looks like you left the f-stop down.
The big one that you've seen, I'm sure the most popular one I've seen floating around the internet
with all the
side by side with the Hubble and the JWST. The Hubble one took 10 days.
This took like 12 hours, right?
The JWST was 12 hours.
12 hours. I saw that. That's crazy. So it's going to be able to do a lot more science, because now imagine, we haven't seen a long exposure from it. Wait until we see like a 12-day exposure from that thing. Like the level of detail we get is going to be crazy.
It just freaks me. It almost like, it's so incredible, so amazing. It gives me misty, man. It's so cool.
It is pretty exciting. And I love that they're already like discovering things with it. Like literally the first pictures came back. They're like, we're going to be studying this one for years.
It's so
because
cool.
There's so much stuff they didn't know, like looking in the infrared spectrum. One of the things that like really shocked them is like the gravity wells, but that are like lensing, like the gravitational lensing that's occurring, like where it looks like the galaxies are smeared across space. That's not an optical distortion from the lens on the telescope. That's literally distortion of the light itself, like from gravity, from galaxies, like galaxy level events. And it's like, what is that? Like, what?
So check this out. So, okay. So it says the JWST is not exactly at the Lagrange, the L2 point, but circles around it in a halo orbit. So there's a point out there past the moon,
Yeah.
or past the moon orbit.
It stays on the dark side of the moon the whole time.
Instead of like just hanging out at that point, it's going like this.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't understand how they do that. Like, can somebody explain that to me? How do you orbit around something that isn't there?
Well, you can just any point in space, you can figure out the.
Well, the only way you can orbit something is if gravity is pulling you towards it, because you have to be swinging around like you have a rope to it. You'd have to use fuel. So is that what it's doing? Is it using fuel to do that little maneuver?
No. I figure you can if you can
just orbit around a point in space. You have to orbit around a planetary body.
No.
How?
You could just by just putting yourself in the right circle. It doesn't have to necessarily.
There's no circle though, because there's no force on you. Like if you're just in space, you just stay there. If you're close to Earth, you fall, and that's all. You're just following continuously. That's what an orbit is falling towards an object continuously. You're just going fast sideways as you are falling. I promise you, this is one thing I actually do know.
No, that makes sense. It makes sense.
So you
here.
This is really neat. You have to have gravity pulling you in that direction. So I'm like, is the Lagrange point like gravity from both the moon and the sun interacting with each other and creating like a gravity well or something?
This might help. There's an animation of the orbit.
Yeah, that's the one thing I never got about the JWST is I do want to see how the hell that Lagrange point thing works.
They have a cool thing from like, this is how it looks from the top. This is how it looks from the side. This is how it looks from the side if you're looking from the sun. That might help give you an idea.
Way more erratic than I thought it was.
This is how their halo orbit works.
Okay. Jack Anders said
L2,
they're using the motion of the solar system to make the orbit tilt, essentially.
Yeah. It says since L2 is just an equilibrium point with no gravitational pull, a halo orbit is not an orbit in the usual sense. The spacecraft is actually in orbit around the sun. The halo orbit can be thought of as a controlled drifting to remain in the vicinity of the L2 point. This requires some station keeping around 2.5 meters per second per year. From the total, I don't know what this is, delta V budget of 93 meters per second. 2 sets of thrusters constitute the observatory's propulsion system. Because the thrusters are located solely on the sun-facing side, all station-keeping operations are designed to slightly undershoot the required amount of thrust in order to avoid pushing JWST beyond the semi-stable L2 point, a situation which would be unrecoverable.
No, that makes sense. So Jack Ander, okay, let's see if I'm understanding this right. So what's really happening is it's just in the gravity of basically the solar system, and its body's pulling just enough that it's pulling it, but not enough that it's accelerating towards it, smashing into it. So that's got to be like balancing on a pin tip. Like, is that what it's using the fuel for? Is just to stay in that little pocket of space that does that? It seems like if they fell out, it would just the solar system would just keep going.
It seems like they don't need to do much, because it did say that the station keeping is around 2.5 meters per second per year. So it's pretty stable.
It's a stable thing. That's crazy. I didn't even think about. I never even considered that, because orbiting something is just falling towards it. So and I always assumed you had to go around it, but if it's moving straight,
it's still technically towards
it, and hover, right? As long as the ground's moving away from you as fast as you're falling, you'll always maintain an equal distance, but it's still pulling you.
Yeah, I feel like it's similar to like how we're orbiting the sun, but also orbiting the galaxy. Sort of, right? And so it's like that kind of a thing. Yeah.
It kind of feels like if you had a magnet and you tied it on a string or something and you got it close to the other magnet and it just started pulling like towards the magnet, and then you start pulling the magnet away like at the same speed that it's pulling towards it. You just maintain that distance between the magnets, but the magnet would follow it around, kind of like putting a magnet under your table and putting a thing on top and like moving it around.
Yeah, and it's kind of
wild, man.
Neat.
Wait, what does that say? Biker Chris said, "Hey mate, I tried sending you PayPal, but it says payment on hold undergoing security review." What
I would say, Biker Chris may have a new PayPal account or something.
Oh, it's probably a new PayPal account then.
Yeah,
well,
I recently received a payment on my business PayPal, and they're holding it. I think in part until like delivery or whatever, because it was a goods and services payment, which I should have. Well, I shot myself in the foot and I lost 20 something bucks on the payment for processing fees and stuff, but whatever. But they're holding it because it's like nobody's ever sent me money on that account yet. And like, it's not super verified. 10 plus year old account.
I mean,
Same
is it
I
on
use for
my
the test
side?
payment.
It's still
Oh,
here, let me
weird.
log into mine and see if I'm having any
Yeah, that's weird.
troubles here. It'll usually I'd get a notification if there was something going on. Hold on here, it's logging in.
The
No,
quintet pictures
everything
at
was fine on my side.
12,000
I
by
don't have any
12,000
notices
pixels.
or anything.
Oh man, it's so cool. Oh man, this is just so cool. I love space stuff, man. I wish more people were as into space stuff as we were during the space race. There's so much cool stuff going on out there. There's so much we could learn about, ourselves and the man. It's just so neat.
Oh man, I gotta figure that out.
Diffraction spikes due to mirror segments and spider color coded. Oh, and spider, color coded.
Hold on here. Wait,
That's
what?
just so fucking cool, man. This is so neat.
Sorry, I'm just
No.
confusing me
Figure
on
it
my
out.
phone.
It's cool, man. We're about wrapping up.
Yeah,
here in a
no,
few
it
minutes. No
was.
big deal.
I wasn't looking at the PayPal thing. It's like my doctor. I'm supposed to text him on like the 19th to just like let him know how like medication changes are working and stuff. And he's like, he like did an appointment for me to like come in. It's like I don't want to come in and pay a $60 copay for you to just like say okay, you're doing good, go home. It's like it just I got to try to avoid that. Somehow he set up an appointment when I was supposed to just send him a text, but he probably wants a $60 copay so he can bill the insurance. They want to get paid too. No, medical bills suck, man. I am so over this.
I had a video call for hey man, like a nurse thing, right? Just video checkup kind of thing. It said for free on the Kaiser website, right? They fucking send me a bill. It's calling it an office visit. I said, bro, I haven't been in an office in 3 years or more. Like I haven't seen any of you people I'm fighting that shit.
There's so much insurance fraud that goes on.
I'm just fucking bonkers, man. I'm not paying $170 for what was supposed to be a free video checkup conference thing with the fucking like a nurse.
Yeah, same thing happened to me last month. I did a digital check-in or whatever where it was over video to like get my medication refills and stuff for the next 3 months. And I dialed in and did the video thing, and then right after it I get a bill for $60 for the copay, like as if I went into the office. And I'm like, and insurance didn't cover it. Well, I mean, insurance covered over the $60, but I was like, damn, man, this is like medical's a monopoly. It's crazy, man. Like I was just telling people on my Twitch stream the other day that I used to go to chiropractors. I don't anymore. Chiropractors like really, really fucked me up, made my back a lot worse. So yeah, it was a terrible experience. They didn't know how to work on my back. They thought they did, but it was like new territory with what I have and the bone spurs that I have where I have them. And so every one of them made it worse. And they kept doing the wrong shit, like putting shims in my shoe to shift my pelvis when my back was already like solidified in that direction. So they were basically creating more stress on one side and messing up my discs. And so anyways, really bad experience. But back when I did go to a chiropractor, I went to this one in Redmond that was like down the street from the Microsoft campus. And this guy's name was Eric. And he always had like nice cars and stuff because I always talked to him about cars when we were doing my adjustment. And I had a massage therapist that I go to right after that. And it turns out he got his entire business closed down for like fraud. Because what he was doing is all the Microsoft employees went there because that was like a close chiropractic thing. And a massage wasn't supposed to be covered under the Microsoft insurance, but they just billed it differently on the invoice to make it look like it was a chiropractic service performed by a chiropractor. Because the medical industry does this weird thing where they create illusionary benefits like, oh, you can get free massages, but it has to be administered by a surgeon with 4 PhDs, like somebody who would never do massage.
Yeah, some of their people.
Yeah, so that they can say, oh, it's like but you'll never find one. Like, look everywhere. So this guy actually did just lie to the insurance company and be like, oh, I'm giving massage too. But he wasn't. Somebody who was not a chiropractor, who was a massage therapist, was giving the massage. And on top of that, he was adding on a bunch of services he wasn't doing, extra visits, all the stuff, because Microsoft was 100% no copay for the chiropractic. So he was just milking it. He's like, so it turns out like later on when he got shut down, I went back and looked at my explanation of benefits, and my visits were like $200-$400.
Yeah.
For a visit to the chiropractor. And it's like, that should have been like maybe $100 or $90 or something. He was like quadruple charging. It was crazy. So the insurance company finally called him on it because it was all Microsoft employees. They're like, this is kind of weird that all these $400 bills we're getting are Microsoft employees, but then the non-Microsoft employees, the bills are small. Yeah. Like that doesn't make any sense. You're doing the same service.
Somebody miscoded it or something. Like I'm like, this is not an office visit. Like I went through all of the right channels for this to be a free video consultation thing with a nurse. I don't know, man. This is dumb.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I'll text him after the stream and be like, dude, come on. Like I don't want to drive all the way into the office or whatever just to like, talk about my medication again. Because I just went in there 3 days ago to get the shots in my back. Like,
yeah,
I was like, I don't want to have to go back and spend another $60. Because that's the other thing sucks. Like every 3 months I have to get new scripts for my medications because they can't auto renew. Yeah. Because they're like super ultra controlled substances. And so I have to every 3 months go pay $60 and have them rewrite them.
Thing, man. So apparently, I was like, man, great. Somebody's finally listening to me about the ADHD stuff. And like, I got these scripts and I'm doing great. Like and man, I got to tell you, it's a super combination of things. Like just the Adderall, not enough. Like I have to have a good night's sleep and like all that stuff to be 100%.
Yeah.
The meds definitely help get me a little further than I would have what can go without them. But man, if it's not like, if I don't check all the boxes, I'm still fucked up. But so apparently I didn't know this, but apparently there's been a law in the books since like 2008 about not being able to prescribe controlled substances through online services, telehealth stuff.
Yep.
And I didn't know that when I jumped into this boat, yep. During the pandemic and stuff, because they like temporarily allowed that for this, and so now they're closing up shop because now I can't get my controlled substances prescribed to me. Even some pharmacies, like it's not 100% official until like October. They don't fully close the door till then, but like some pharmacists aren't filling scripts coming from like Cerebral or Done or whatever, some of these telehealth services.
Yep.
And I'm like, man, so far I haven't had a problem, but like now I have to find an in-person or I'm sure I can still do it video style, but I have to I'm going to like once a month have to go to Tacoma to sit down with a shrink and make sure I'm not selling my meds or whatever. And these are the freaking people who said I was too smart to have ADHD to begin with. So I'm like really freaking nervous that they're going to say like, nah, fuck you. This doesn't make any sense. Even though I've been doing this for now over a year and it's been working.
Yeah, it's kind of fucked up. Like me, I'm used to it because I've been doing it for so long. But it's like my pain medication. Luckily, my new doctor can actually send digital prescriptions for oxycodone, which you can't do for a regular physician can't do that anymore in Washington. They have to hand write a script and you have to hand deliver it to one pharmacy.
Yep.
But I didn't know this, but pain doctors that like deal with lifetime pain, they can actually do that shit through the computer, but they still have to physically see you in person every 3 months to do a follow-up. Like that. So, but it's inconvenient because sometimes you can't switch pharmacies. If your pharmacy doesn't have it in stock, you just have to wait because there's no way to transfer it to another pharmacy without triggering the system, which locks everything down until the doctor unlocks it again. So, because they don't want you like going to 2 pharmacies or whatever and trying to pass the script twice or whatever. There's some bullshit that people do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know the 2 scripts that they have to like even my physician, he has to hand write them and send them over. Like the rest he can digitally send, but it's Adderall and it's oxycodone. But everything else I have, like Wellbutrin for the antidepressant, my blood pressure medication, fucking even sleeping stuff like what's that shit called, Ambien or whatever, all that stuff he can just digitally send over. Like I never have to, but for the Adderall and oxycodone, you have to do a 3-month follow-up like every single time religiously. Otherwise there will be no more scripts.
Yeah.
So, and I understand it. It is like, I 100% support that. It sucks that in your situation that they're making it so difficult and you have to go to like certain place. Like you should be able to just get on like a telehealth call and be like, yeah, look, my teeth aren't falling out. I'm not a meth addict. Like give me my damn script.
Right.
Making you drive to Tacoma is absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. So like if that happened, I'd be pissed. I'd be absolutely pissed. But sometimes I do have to change doctor. Like my doctor retired after being my doctor for 18 or 19 years. The dude retired. He just messaged me one day. He's like, hey, I'm going to spend some time with my grandkids. I'm shutting down the practice. And I'm like, where do I go? I have a pain contract with you that's non-transferable. And he's like, oh, no, actually, I'm going to transfer you. I'm transferring all of my current customers over to this pain doctor that have the chronic pain management and then to another primary care physician if they don't. So for me, he was able to move me over to the pain doctor. And the pain doctor was, oh, yeah, here's sign here. Okay, we're cool. And everything worked. But had I gone to the primary care doctor, which I did in the beginning, I was like, hey, can you prescribe this stuff? And he's like, no. He's like, no, not going to do it.
No.
He didn't want to prescribe it. Now he will prescribe my Adderall because the pain doctor can't handle that. But the only reason he can prescribe it is because I was grandfathered in, and I actually signed all the paperwork with the other doctor, and it transferred to him. If you were like a new person coming in, he wouldn't prescribe it.
Yeah,
like you would have to basically get like a psychiatrist to do it. So it's just there's a lot of loophole, like a lot of loops and shit that you have to jump through. But after a long time, I've kind of figured it out. So I know what to do, but I still fuck up even after all these years. I'll just forget to get a script refilled, or I'll call the pharmacy like literally like right as I run out and I don't have anything more on medications you're not supposed to just cold turkey off of. And then I like call up the pharmacy and they're like, oh, we don't have them in stock, but we can get them in stock in the next 2 days. You're like, all right, cool. And then you just go 2 days without your Adderall, oxycodone, all laid up in like fucking chronic pain, going through withdrawal. It's not fun. It's not fun. I don't recommend it to anybody. I really don't. Like if you can avoid having to use any kind of like strong pain management or opiate, please do. It's the only reason it's worth it for me is because I've exhausted all my other options. That's the only reason I'm at a pain doctor. I've exhausted everything. Like they won't do surgery on me because of the risks involved. The pain is manageable with drugs, so they're just going to keep on doing that until they can't anymore. Stab me in the back with $500 needles every 3.5 months to put steroid injections into my joints. As long as they can manage it that route, they want to avoid surgery because surgery could literally paralyze me. So they're like, not the greatest situation to operate on you, but that'll probably improve over the years. I'm sure at some point they'll be like, oh shit, that's like taking your tonsils out. It's super easy. Like we'll just do that with the fucking Da Vinci robot. Some dude will log in from Dubai and like it's an hour operation. You'll walk out. It's like I'm just waiting for that. That's the time when I'm gonna be like, oh, I'll pull the trigger and be like, yeah, let's do the surgery. Plus they don't want to operate on me until I lose like 200 pounds. That was another requirement.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's gonna take a while, brother.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah. See, fat people work harder. It's true. I made a shirt that said fat people work harder. Nobody ever got that shirt. It's like everything I do is 10 times harder than you going upstairs. Yeah. It's like you going upstairs 10 times. Taking a bath. It's like you taking a bath with your hands like tied in front of you. It sucks. What I'm saying is don't become like me. Okay. Let me be the example. Don't be like Barnacules.
From my mistakes.
Don't learn from my mistakes. Oh, when I die, I'm gonna send out a message to all of you on Twitter to curb you from your evil ways. I'm still happy though. That's the thing is like even if I was in writhing pain, and trust me, you don't want to ask me on the day when I'm in writhing pain because I'll tell the exact opposite of what I'm telling you right now. But no, like when things equalize and things are over and I work my way through it and I just grit my teeth and everything, it's like I enjoy being alive. I think being alive is the most amazing thing ever. Like honestly,
man, I like being alive.
In the cosmic scope of things, like this 40 to 100 years or whatever that we get here, unless you get hit by a bus or an asteroid strikes you or whatever, or you get shot up in school. It's like this is the shit. Like I'd rather be alive and in pain than be dead and just not alive. Like I like being alive is what I'm saying. So living is pretty badass. So if you have one of those days where you're feeling like you're living isn't the greatest thing ever, just know that you'll get through it and you'll have your moments. Yeah. Even me, I have chronic pain. I hurt every moment of every day. Every joint in my body hurts right now. No amount of pain medication I take truly makes me comfortable. It just makes it tolerable. And it sucks, but once I get focused on things like when I'm live streaming, I'm interacting, talking about space and telescopes and shit like that. Oh man, it still gets me like super jacked up. Like, and I love that. I absolutely love that. And I hope that I continue to be like that all the way up until my last day. But once I'm dead, I don't know. It could be tomorrow. It could be next month. It could be in a couple of years, whatever. Whenever I die from whatever fucking ultimately takes me, just know that I'm not dead. My matter is just less. What would you say? Randomly arranged or not?
Yeah, less
arranged.
Orderly. It's less orderly.
Yeah, I'm just less orderly matter. I'm still there. I'll still be here. I'm just not going to be live streaming anymore because I won't have those capabilities. But my matter will still be here. It will be here forever. And until the universe like completely implodes on itself or whatever it's going to do, I will always exist. And I think that's cool. And I'm going to take your link. You got to send me the link to that poem.
Oh, I did. It's in the Twitter.
Okay, cool. Because I am totally gonna request that be read at my eulogy because that is a fantastic way to look at it, and I wish more people looked at it that way. Like death is not it's not a bad thing. It really isn't in the end. It's like you're still there. You're just not arranged the same way you were. It's like cremate me and fertilize a plant and like grow a fruit tree or something out of me, and it's like I'm a part of that fruit tree. Now every apple you eat off that tree, you're basically eating me. Which is awesome.
That's kind of what I want.
Yeah, like do something with my ashes.
Yeah,
Don't just put them on a shelf. Like, go fucking throw them in a river or something.
I definitely don't want to be buried whole. Like that's just fucking stupid. What a waste of space. And all of the accoutrement that has to go along with that, the freaking box, the concrete vault, all of the crap that goes involved with all that shit. I don't want none of that. Don't clip this or something. This could be hereby my final wishes as far as what to do with my body, man. Just cremate or what I think is really fucking cool, those
compost
egg things. The egg things.
Oh.
You can have yourself put up in one of them biodegradable eggs and it grow like a tree out of you.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Should be cool.
How do you do that?
Here, what do I see? It's like
oh shit, I totally do that. I thought you were talking about the composting thing. The human composting thing is pretty cool.
Oh, no, human body.
It's legalized in Oregon, by the way. I think a couple other states just legalized it too. Composting human bodies.
Yes.
They literally like take you and like stick you in like a little pod, like a little dehydration bay or whatever, where you like or it's not dehydration.
Here, yeah, it's called Capsula Mundi, or at least this is a particular way of doing it. This is looks like this is out of Italy.
Let's see, I just found it. Yep.
Their main page is an Italian website. But this was the concept that I had in my mind. I'm sure there's other companies and other places you could have this done. But yeah,
that egg is big.
Yeah, it's you. They don't do nothing. As far as I can tell, they don't do anything to your body but just stuff you into this egg thing.
Wait, no shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm sure there's some prep. I'm sure that's not just your squishy sack being put into this egg thing.
The picture of the tree growing out of the top of it, that's badass.
Isn't that fucking cool?
So man, you just degrade inside of the egg and then the egg just kind of like merges with the earth and feeds the tree. Oh, that's cool.
How cool would that be? Instead of like a boring, spooky ass fucking cemetery, it's like your own, like your personal family forest.
That is actually really cool. The neat thing about that is it's like all graveyards would just become parks, right? Like how cool would that be? Like the graveyard just becomes a park for everybody to play.
10 or 15 years later, you could have a little plaque put on your tree that's you, and or like your headstone or whatever. It could be like, a family tree, not just a family tree, a family forest.
Yeah, when my friend Jason died, they cremated him and they took not all of his ashes because some of them went to his father. They kind of split him up. But they took some of his ashes, his wife that he left behind. She took some ashes and took it out and like used it to like fertilize a tree that she had out in the yard, like a fruit tree. And then she went out and put a little plaque on the tree that the bark is growing around now. So it's like it's embedded in the tree. And it like says his name on it because apparently it was like this fruit tree was like his favorite tree that they had in the front yard. And so it's like now you go out there and it's like, yeah, the tree's him. Like that tree was like nourished by his ashes. The ash like contributed something to the soil. I'm like, dude, that is freaking awesome. Like it's like my uncle when I was a little kid. I was too young to really know him. Like I honestly can't even hardly remember his face. And but he was murdered, and they cremated him, and he really loved going up to this place called Lake Cushman. And it's illegal to dump ashes in Lake Cushman, but my mom and dad like loaded up his ashes, went out there in a boat in the middle, and just deep six that shit.
Yeah, man, it's only illegal if you get caught.
That's true.
So do what I want.
So it's funny. So many lakes do that now, where they actually have like you look it up and it's like posted like no dumping ashes here. The funniest.
Well, it'll fuck up the water pH and stuff. Like ashes, are super acidic? I think.
Yeah, but on a body of water that big, would it really make that difference?
If enough people, that's how many tourists go to the Grand Canyon every year. Yeah.
It's like dead bodies at the bottom,
right?
Oh my god. What was I just gonna say? Shit, there was something really cool. Let's see, dumped his ashes in the lake. Oh damn, I lost it. There's something.
Yeah, and they're legal in the United States. Like organic burial pods, like the Capsula Mundi or Bio Urn, can legally be used within the United States. That's cool.
I know you're not noise. I know you're not supposed to, like they don't want you dumping ashes in like certain places, but I know people dump ashes in the ocean that have done that where they love the ocean and they want their ashes dumped out at sea.
Sure.
But God, what was I just thinking about? Shit, there was something really cool and it just like completely slipped out of my brain. Oh well, I'll remember it later. This is old people problem.
I have seen what you were talking about, the biodegrading. Like they'll put you into
it's like a composter. They compost you
basically, and it sits on a thing and it like composts you out for a while. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Literally turn to compost. Like it's all your body. Like all they do is like sprinkle wood chips on top of you or whatever, and like shove you in this thing. And then like 3 months later, you come out and you're compost. Like you look like dirt. Your entire body decomposes. Your bones, everything.
Yeah.
Or actually, maybe they took the bones out and grind them. I don't know if the bones decompose but all the flesh and all the organs and everything basically just turn into dirt through this process. It's pretty cool. There's a whole video on YouTube about this entire process end to end on like this lady's channel where she's like a mortician. And she talks about like, the life of being a mortician. And so she goes and visits this place in Oregon that does this composting. And I'd never heard about it before I saw this video. Oh, that's what I was going to talk about. You actually just reminded me, Lucid Enemy. I was like, did you hear about the people dumping ashes on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at fucking Disneyland? So many people were doing it apparently. Because it's such a popular ride that's been around for so long. People are like, oh, my ashes, baby. People were going in there and just like, fucking dumping ashes in the water, dumping ashes on the crew, throwing ashes at the actors and shit. So now there's signs. If you ever go to Disneyland, there's a sign on the Pirates of the Caribbean that's like, it's forbidden to put human waste or do not drop ashes of loved ones. No exceptions. They had to put signage up.
I didn't ever notice. I've been a couple times.
I wouldn't look it up, and it's like a real thing.
I believe it though. They got all kinds of weird rules and stuff.
Isn't that weird though? Like people are like, I guess people have
the haunted house. I could see that too. Yeah.
The haunted house too. The haunted house had the signs. I remember when I went down there. It was the haunted house. It was Small World, and the Pirates of the Caribbean all had signs on them that are like, do not dump your loved one's ashes here. Please don't dump because people were like going in there and like chucking them everywhere. Like in the Pirates of the Caribbean, apparently, like they were having like the water filtration system was like struggling picking up this shit. Like, I just thought that was kind of weird, like and funny at the same time. Because like if you died, I guess if you love Disney, there's a lot of people that are like Disneyland addicts, right?
Oh yeah,
like season passes go every weekend and just like just jizzing in their pants over it. And and I get it. I mean, it's a fun place. I've been to Disneyland many times. I can't say I've ever had a bad time. Yeah. And so it's just, I guess that's kind of a natural thing, right? If you love to fish, people like their ashes dumped at sea. If you love to fly, people like that's a big no-no, by the way. That's a federal crime. But people blow that shit right out of the window of the airplane or whatever, and who's gonna know?
What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do behind you where you find the evidence?
Come and get me. There you
exactly. Go find a bone fragment on the ground that you can prove I dropped out of this airplane. So I guess it does make sense that if you're like a Disneyland addict, you'd do that.
Sure. I want to hit this question. Yeah, I want to hit this question though before we go. So Fervol TDO asked, do you know if you run a PCI 3.0 and 4.0 GPU on the same board, will the 3.0 card inhibit the 4.0 card in any way, like force it to run at 3.0 mode or limit the speed too much? So I don't think so. First off, but you may run into weird funny business. If you're in your BIOS settings, they if it is explicitly, I don't know, or boards may be different for different boards. I usually only operate with ITX stuff when I'm really fiddling around with details. So I really only have experience with like single slot stuff. But so I don't know, but check your BIOS settings. If you can set each individual slot to be 3.0 or 4.0, if they're all set to 4, and you have your 3.0 in there, I think it will work. Because I ran into an issue.
It's just a protocol, right?
I ran into an issue with my 3080 Ti not working right, and it was because I had set it to it was hard set to 3.0. I had to go in there and set it to 4 or auto. Actually, I think it was originally set to auto, and it was wigging out for some reason. It wasn't. It was pretending like the video card was bad. So just make sure that they're specifically set to the appropriate generation for the card. Because I went from a 1080 Ti, which is 3.0, to a 3080 Ti, which is 4.0. And so I think my slot was still set to 3.0 and wasn't working right.
Everything I'm seeing just through my little search here is that each PCI lane is negotiated differently, like the handshake.
So you should be able to set each slot specifically.
So each slot should be able to negotiate either PCI 3.0 or PCI 4.0. But it is backwards compatible too. So if you take a PCI 4.0 GPU and stick it in a PCI 3.0's like old motherboard, it will still work. Like it doesn't have to be PCI 4.0. It looks like they're backwards compatible, which I think is cool. Like I didn't know if that was going to be the deal or not.
As far as performance and speed goes, PCI, we don't have devices other than maybe a few like M.2 RAID cards and stuff to saturate PCI 4.0.
Yeah, plus don't you have to have like DDR5 or some shit, like the new DDR?
There is not a significant, in my experience and from what I've read and seen, there is not a significant difference in running your 4.0 cards on a 3.0 slot. You won't get any weird bottlenecking or anything like that. There's not enough throughput. There's not enough stuff going on to saturate the PCI lanes.
Dude, I'm still using my freaking 2018 or 2017 Puget Systems build,
and we're already on track to start pushing PCI 5. So
the crazy thing is, this computer is still like I put a 3080 in it GPU.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is the same as it was like originally. I haven't upgraded anything. Just the GPU is all I've upgraded in this box since I got it. It's still blazing fast.
And even then, back in the day, I know Puget did some testing about whether or not like X16 versus X8 would make any difference, and they did it a little weird. They covered up some of the like half the pins on the card to see if it would make any difference,
I've seen
and
that.
It doesn't. X8 even is plenty enough. So.
Yeah, I think the GPU stuff, most of the stuff's done on the card anyway. So the only thing you would really benefit from the throughput would be just to put the data in the buffer on the card.
Yeah, filling the VRAM. Filling the VRAM is what it needs all that for generally. And that's a lot of talk from like machine learning. There's a lot. It's getting it from RAM into VRAM and back generally is where your slowdown is.
Yeah, I can't believe like the 4080 or whatever, the new card coming out is going to be $2,000. Did you see that? Nvidia's pricing?
I'm not that surprised.
The
The 3090 Ti.
card, it's not even a Quadro. It's like
the 3090 was.
I suppose it was like
I
think it was 1,500 was the 3090, and the Ti was more, right? So the Ti was probably like 1,800. But my God, man, GPUs that cost twice as much as like a full gaming rig, like 5 years ago. We're going the wrong direction.
No, but the thing is,
this is what I have to say.
The performance though has been getting better and better even at the lower end. So we have to get out of this mindset that everybody needs to be buying 3090s and 3080s and stuff. When that's you have to remember the price to performance knee curve. A 3080 and 3090s are way up at that high end of the knee curve. A 3060, 3070 is closer to the middle and bottom end of that. And most people are totally, even today, a 3060 Ti is perfectly fine for most people. You're going to be able to rock high settings or ultra settings at 1080p and 1440p with hardly any problem. Man, the pervasive attitude that everybody needs to have the biggest dick in the world is stupid. I don't know why we got to this point of like, you didn't spend $15,000. I don't understand, because like the consumer market doesn't match with the weird like attitude that seems to be in the enthusiast community. Is like everybody who's like big and famous and stuff talks about, they're $10,000 PCs from that they got sponsored from whoever the fuck. And it's like, bro, the average consumer does not need to spend probably more than $2,000. If you were starting from no PC, you have no computer whatsoever.
Yep.
You probably don't need to spend more than $2,000 on your machine.
I like 3070. I have a 3070 in my bedroom. That's where I do 99% of all my gaming is in my bedroom on my big TV, because I'm stuck in bed a lot.
Perfect.
And I think it's great. Like, it plays shit. I play Forza like 90 frames per second, 4K, not maxed out, but like, decently up there. So yeah, you really don't need it. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, the 3080 is definitely faster. Like when you come up here, you get a higher frame rate. Yeah. But it's like at a certain point.
Is it worth the extra $400 or whatever?
No, not when. I mean, if you have unlimited resources, knock yourself out. But for the average person, no, not even close.
I would not have bought this 3080 Ti if I got a crazy deal. It was, as I do, because I'm like that. On actually every part in my machine, I got a crazy deal on. I paid probably close to half MSRP for this 3080 Ti.
Oh damn, dude! Was that after the crypto crash or before the crypto crash?
Before.
That's impressive, dude.
Well, hey man, I know people who know people.
Dude, I was smart. I sold, well, not as smart as I could have been, but I sold 5 of my GPUs during that height of that crypto thing.
Yeah, man, right on.
I sold a pair of like, was it RX 560s? Like the AMD cards in box. I sold each one of them for like $700, and they were like $200 cards tops before the crypto thing. And then I sold I think I sold 2 Titan XPs, and I got like, I think I want to say $1,800 for 2 Titan XPs or something like that. Like it was crazy money, dude. It was absolutely crazy money, and I even felt bad like selling it to the people, but they were like, I'm like, man, this is like, but this is what they're going for on eBay, and they're like, oh yeah, don't worry about it, you're saving my ass or whatever. Like, and the guy I sold most of them to, he doesn't even use them for crypto mining. He runs a GPU rendering company, and he literally can't get GPUs. He couldn't find a single fucking GPU.
Yeah.
Because they were all bought up, and so he was just trying to get anything he could, and he was like so grateful to get those. And I was like, damn.
I just saw a PC on there's a marketplace called Jawa.gg.
I've heard of it.
JAWA.gg. Pretty cool thing. I like what they're doing. They've got some work to do for some things, but
people are actually getting their shit that they're buying on there. It's not a scam.
It's great. It's a great used marketplace. One guy was highlighted, and there's a good handful of people who are like making living doing this, and I'm like, which pumps me up. But there's one guy selling $1,000 PC. It's here, actually, let me see if I can just pull it up real quick because I want to be sure about the specs. But it was a 3000 series proc, I think a 3600, 3050, blah blah blah. He's selling it for $1,000. Which is great. That's a really good deal in my opinion. Oh, here we go. Nope, that's not right. Let me see. I know it's sold already, so I want to.
Well, as long as people are like getting their product, that's my big problem with sites like eBay and shit. Is like people are buying GPUs and getting like empty boxes and shit full of rocks.
Yeah.
Deal with all that return bullshit.
I did at the when things were really bad, like on eBay and stuff. I did want to try and sell an empty 3090 box and see if one of those bots would snatch it up.
Yeah, the crypto guys.
I never did jump on it fast enough.
Yeah, the funny thing is I still have all the boxes from like well, except for the cards I sold. I did give them the boxes for them, but I still have like mini Nvidia boxes laying around.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Here it is.
Here it is. What is it?
So here I'll link the little article about it from a guy called Bubble Tea Builds. So what? It's a R5 3600, not even a 3600X, just a 3600. The board you can upgrade to a 5000 series with a BIOS flash, which hopefully he put the appropriate BIOS already on there. I would have, so it'd be just drop it in and it works.
So is this like a PC he's selling through Java?
Yeah, there's a good handful of guys with companies, verified sellers and stuff that are making good flipping sort of used or like semi-used PCs. 3600, a 6600 XT, which is about equivalent to a 3050.
Okay.
A little better actually, as from what I understand, it gets a little bit better FPS than the 3050.
I see it. Okay, yeah, 1440p gaming, RX.
Dude, it's great.
$1,000 even.
And if in the future you want to upgrade, dude, it's like $300 or something for a 5700X. I'm not sure of retail prices anymore.
Oh, I was got a lot of positive reviews. This guy's built a lot of systems.
Yeah.
Okay, this is kind of cool. I've heard of Java. I just never looked at it. I know Kyle's talked about it before.
There's this one, and PC Swaps is another good one. PC Swap's a little older, but I feel like Java has some money behind them. I feel like somebody
I like their layout.
Somebody dumped some. They must be funded by somebody bigger. I don't. This is like a brainchild or like somebody's kid is making something, because PC Swaps is older, but just doesn't have the community built behind them and stuff. It's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, some of these are like $574 for a full 1060 PC with Ryzen 5 1600 16 gig of RAM. I mean, you can get into a gaming PC for. That's a little on the low end.
I would not get first gen Ryzen personally. I'd stick with 3000 or 5000 series Ryzen. The first gen Ryzens were okay.
I still haven't used a Ryzen like any of them.
I rock a 5800X myself right now.
You like it?
It does what it says on the tin. Like, what difference does it make?
It seems to work these days. Like, remember when I was having all those problems where it was just like shutting off and shit? It doesn't do that anymore.
A little overpowered. No. That's why I say a little above. I would avoid the 1000 series, the first gen Ryzen stuff. There was a little quirky.
Yeah, they have a 2080 system on here, RTX 2080 system for $1,000.
See,
but it's a Ryzen 5 3600. Is that second gen?
That's great. Yeah, that's where I would start. Yeah, 3600 is great.
2080 is still a fantastic GPU today. Like,
it's great
as long as you're not doing like art. But nobody. The funny thing is the ray tracing shit. Everybody just turns it on for like the eye candy, but nobody plays with it enabled.
No, No,
Like
I
it
didn't.
just you'd lose so much frame rate even with an RTX card. It's like it's just not worth
Yeah.
it in my opinion.
It is a lot better now. Especially when you can do like DLSS stuff too. That helps a lot.
You know what? I haven't done any of the DLSS stuff because I
haven't
don't.
either.
I want to try it.
I haven't figured out how to turn it on.
I
don't
haven't
know.
either.
Do I need some extra driver or some sort of downloader thing? There's not just a setting that says like boop. I don't know.
Yeah, 'cause I wanted to
they're
try it in
calling something
Cyberpunk and I
different.
couldn't figure it
don't know.
out.
Yeah,
I'm just getting old, man.
yeah. I just don't know if they call it something different inside the game or what. Like is it resolution scaling or something? Yeah,
It's possible. All right, dude. Well, let's wrap up because I got to piss like a racehorse.
Oh, sure. Get out of here.
You guys, it's been awesome. Thank you for hanging out with Tech Talk. Thank you guys for all the support. Thank you, Robert, for the $20. Eric, for
yeah,
the
all that
$10.
stuff.
Valiant Brand for just throwing down, man. He gave us $55, $35. Eric G, thank you for the $10. You guys have been absolutely amazing today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you did, give it a like on your way out the door. And if you guys want to check out our individual shows that we do over on Twitch, all the links, or during the week we do Twitch streams. All that stuff's linked down in the video description, as well as all the stuff for Tech Banditry for David Hewlett. He couldn't join us today because he's off, having fun doing stuff. But he'll be back eventually. He always comes back, man. He always comes back. And if you guys have any questions or want to carry on any conversations or continuations of what we've done here, you want to suggest a topic for a future show, just hit us up over on Twitter at Barnacules and at AuxxZillary.
Yeah.
And on that note, you guys have yourself a wonderful, fantabulous weekend, and we'll catch you next time. Peace out.